you talk about language, it's just you know uh, digging for gold. الناس معادن كمعادن الذهب والفضة, right? عليه الصلاة
Yes.
والسلام. So like
Sallallahu.
when you're talking with people, like that's what you're doing, right? You're pulling out gold and silver.
Yeah, and I think that's subhanallah. That's the hikmah of like يعني, subhanallah, this experience of life, people. It's it's that like people and like interactions with people bring out things that you can never experience without having people like by yourself. You can never experience life fully without people in a way that
Yeah,
it's one side of life, interacting with people.
yeah, yeah.
And getting to know yourself and getting to know people, they're like happening at the same time all the time.
Yeah, I think a lot about uh, I try to put myself a lot of times in the sorry, people are coming in, but I'm already writing notes down. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I always try to put myself in the mind of like I don't want to say Adam alayhi salam, but like the very first human beings, right? And how language work started. And what first things, the first names that they got. And Yeah, I mean you have like I think about the Bulleh Shah story all the time now, but
Mm.
the idea that came first. I was just talking with my friend Kashif. I don't know if you know Kashif because he had a baby. Uh,
Yeah, I know, Kaji.
yeah, and I was telling him about the whole paradigm that that we kind of talked about a couple of times about like the three vowels. Me and Yasmin were just talking about this in the chat, and I was thinking about it again. How the three vowels correspond to like three dimensions of the self: heart, mind, body, high, mid, low, range. Um, and then he started thinking about how he heard his baby crying, and it sounded like it was saying Allah, Allah, like
Oh,
doing dhikr or something like that.
yeah,
Uh,
mashallah.
yeah. No, I mean
Ali Rumi Sheikh. Ali Rumi Sheikh. It's an amazing name.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Also Kasha. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they do a lot of dhikr circles, and they'll often do that kind of thing. Allah, reciting the names of Allah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be
Have you
surprised.
been to this last week? I was
Uh,
planning to go.
no, no, I didn't go. I usually play basketball Thursday nights, so
Oh
that's why
yeah.
I haven't been going. But I'm gonna try and plan ahead, especially if I get to see the baby, because I didn't get to see the baby yet. I don't think anybody has seen the baby yet.
Yeah, I think it's not. That's why I'm waiting to, inshallah,
Yeah.
to see the baby and join the session, inshallah. Usually, like Thursdays, I have a meeting, like it's a peer-to-peer advisory group. So I had like my meetings on Thursdays nights for so long now, so I haven't been able to go. But
Mhm.
last week we switched it up to like morning time. So now I'm gonna, inshallah, Thursdays, like Thursday night is like a lot of things happening Thursday night,
Yeah. Yeah. It's Chicago.
from like the Burda to
Yeah.
Kashif and the group, and
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of amazing things happening. Like,
Yeah. I'm
which
getting
is
old, so.
Islamically, it's Friday night. I think that's a
Oh,
big
that's.
reason for it.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I'm getting old, so I like to play as much as I can, but no, I'll come soon, inshallah.
Inshallah.
It would be interesting to see if we get to talk about music at some point. I suppose we can now, since you know, uh, somehow I think we can connect it. Uh,
Of course, and even now, when you start like with the vows and the uh the three axes of that same dimension, like with the three vows and that three dimensional.
Mm.
understanding of that sound. And you
Yeah.
mentioned Kashif. I was like, all right, you guys are gonna have an amazing conversation tying it to music.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think Kashif will be the one.
Yeah, yeah. I sent him an article recently because uh well um okay, maybe last thing and then we'll start. Yeah, I sent him an article that I wrote really quickly using AI because I just got to the point where I'm like I said, I was so spread thin. I don't have time to sit down and write. I would love to, but I have to work. I have to do things. So now I'm just dictating to AI and having it write articles, and it's pretty good. It still has some of the style things that AI has that everybody can notice, and I don't really like. Nobody really likes. But it gets to the point, and and then what I can also do when I start doing with people, and if anybody is curious, I'll share with you. And I've done this with some people already, is I can share the sessions. So I have a feeling that this is going to be the future of authorship, right? Because you can see my raw dictation and my raw thought process, right? If you want, or you can go straight to the raw, to the cleaned up, like direct kind of, and
Polished, edited, yeah,
yeah, and not only just that, but in the style that you want. Because after using these kind of tools,
yeah.
you can get it to frame whatever um
You know what's really
you want.
interesting? I met someone like a week ago. He dedicated last year to explore all the his interest in life, and he was like and using AI to explore that, and he ended up writing 300 books in 1 year. 300
What?
using AI,
Uh,
and I was fascinated. Like I read few articles, and just the conversation with this guy was out of this world. And
uh,
300 books in 1 year.
mashallah. Okay, I'll have to ask you about that later, inshallah. Okay, Bismillah. So I have plenty of things to talk about, plenty of things to share, but I always like to open it up first if anybody wants to share any thoughts that they have on al-Khaf. Um, yeah, I mean, only thing I'll say real quick is it's probably one of the most maybe technical um, names
Mm,
that we have had so far, at least in terms of like how someone decided that it should be in the list. So I guess I can start with that unless anybody wants to. Um,
yeah, I would love to hear that because I think about it exactly the opposite. But maybe it's just in
well,
terms of
it's a very simple idea. Okay, let me just start in my normal way, and then we'll get to to the Quran because that's the thing with these 99 names, which we discovered I think maybe 10 episodes ago, is that like the list comes from the Quran, but not every name is directly mentioned in the Quran. Sometimes it's a verb that's used, and then the scholars extrapolate uh, the noun form, or sometimes, as we'll see here, it's a noun, but it's tricky. Um,
mm,
uh, yeah, I mean, I'm always torn because I think it's good to start with the Quran, but the way I think about these sessions is also, I think, important too. So, I always try and, I think just as a Muslim and as, somebody that uh, reflects and tries to grow, yeah, I like to renew my intentions. And so, especially with projects and that involve other people, and that are very important to me, I think it's a good practice, right? I think I remember like Bukhari when he was writing his book, like he would pray, like I think he would make wudu and pray every 2 rakahs every single time before he decided on putting like uh you know a hadith in the text. And that level of ritual is, we might think is excessive, but like it gives you a kind of a grounding, I guess. And that's the best way to kind of put it. Yeah.
yes.
So, I've called it like a semiotic laboratory. Um, and I think that's true because we're literally like testing the limits of language, pushing the limits of language, really trying to find that edge. And that becomes like metaphysics, right? We're talking about like things that are real that we can't necessarily see or perceive, but we know are real, or at least believe are real. And then inevitably, what that leads us to is, what they call in the West epistemology. I think in the equivalent in Arabic, I don't know what the equivalent in Arabic would be, but the equivalent in Islam, I think, would be aqidah, right? Because that's kind of like the same thing. It's like, how do you know what you know? Well, this is where we start. So that's kind of what we're doing, and that's why these sessions go so long. I think, and I think that's why they're also very very rich. Um, okay, so lots of updates. Maybe we'll talk about that at the end. I'm not really not really sure what the best way to move is, um, because I like to keep it a conversation as much as possible. But let's converse with the text, I guess. So I think what I had in mind was doing a quick review of the past 20 because uh, 20 is kind of a milestone. I think Zanir, you were saying it was tied to Al Wadud, maybe. Um, what's mostly on my mind is a lot of these changes in the app. So as you can see, it looks a little bit more like an app, but I guess you guys can just watch as you go along. So we kind of stay focused a little bit because I'm sure you guys have a lot of thoughts, and I definitely have a lot written down here. But okay, let's start with Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Um, and Yeah, if anybody has any thoughts that come to their mind, but I'll just kind of go through them pretty quickly. But like, feel free to interrupt me or remind me of like something that we said that is important and relevant. Um, okay, Bismillah. So Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. We said that the main idea here that really kind of ties everything together is the womb. And there's nothing that's better explains or is a better metaphor of the mercy of Allah than the womb of a woman. And of course, that a discussion on that can go volumes and volumes of books and hours, as we have seen. But we'll just leave it at that. We'll try and identify, this kind of branch here that I'm trying to kind of showcase in the graph. And the graph is going through some. So as you can see here, one of the changes is that we have uh, added about 30 different Semitic languages. So these are a bunch of different languages that are what they call Proto-Semitic, right? So these are languages that came before Arabic, and you can kind of see it's organized here. And I'm going to add some more organizations, but and it's a little bit much. You can filter them out if you don't want them. But what's pretty cool is that you can kind of like go through and see some details here, and you can kind of see like you can kind of tell, I think, just by the script. Like, I'm pretty sure this is Ugaritic. I don't really know what that is, but I guess it's one of the oldest forms because this is a cuneiform alphabet. And then you have Hebrew and other stuff. So you can kind of see sometimes in some cases there's only about 800 roots that have these languages out of the 5,000 roots that are in Lane's lexicon. So sometimes you can go back and see some very, very old meanings, and I've already discussed with some people already about some interesting roots that go, like, when you go far back enough, you see the idea of cutting again. And like I said, that's, I think, one of the most common ideas that I've seen.
I wanted to ask you about one thing. The other day I heard like a piece of like a lecture by Dr. Omar Farouk, and he was talking about how Timurik, like Thamud people, the language is the oldest language, but that's will have to like rewrite history because it's like the oldest and it's Arabic language.
Yeah, I asked my friend about this. So he's the friend that I got this data from actually. I don't remember exactly how I met him. I think it was through a Facebook group. But and this is like one of the most important parts of the updates, by the way, is this acknowledgement section, because without these people's work, like this app wouldn't be possible. We probably wouldn't have met, um, and so on. So this brother here, Glenn Stevens, I think he's an Australian Muslim who's married to an Egyptian. Uh, he has this website here. He gave me the data. And I asked him about this, and he said attestation, as they call it, right? Attestation is meaningless, right? There's no way to prove which came first, up to a point, right? Um, and um, and then he gave me this picture, um, which shows like I guess I forgot what he called it, but I guess it's some sort of science of trying to figure out, how the sounds kind of developed and split up.
Mm.
In addition to the let's see if you can see here. I don't know why it comes up random. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So in addition to the 800 roots, well, we didn't add 800 roots. There's 800 out of the 5,000 that have been updated. Um, uh, we added about 8,000 words. So out of those, we actually added another letter because before Arabic, there was a sound that you see here that's very close to the seen sound. And I think I will just merge it with seen. Um,
Which one is it?
it doesn't have an
Mm.
orthography. It doesn't have a letter, so it's just this question mark 28 thing, because the data starts at 0. So I think you can kind of see, um, I guess it's Neds or Sened, um, and the concept is to bolster. Yeah, that seems to make sense. But it's not a scene actually. It's a different letter. So that's why I didn't
Mm.
combine them because, yeah, it's just like a technical linguistic thing, I guess. It's not super interesting, unless you're very into history. But yeah, when I think about these kind of things, I always think about the hadith that I heard once that I can't ever find where I found it. But it's that all genealogists are liars, right? Because a lot of genealogists, they try and trace lineage all the way back to like Adam or something like that. And, we can go back as far with the Prophet ﷺ as Adnan, which I think is almost like 15 or 20 generations. I don't know how many exactly.
Wow.
Um, alayhi salatu wasalam. But yeah, at a certain point, it's impossible to really know for sure, right?
Mm.
Okay, Malik. Um, I forget actually. Is it Al Malik or Malik? Right. So here it's Al
Al-Malik.
Malik. Right. So okay, I feel like I've seen lists where it's Al Malik, but anyway. So if we look at the root, what I have selected here actually is the verb, the base verb malakahu, right? To own something or possess it. And I think there's even a sense of like just holding it with your hand, malak al-ajin, I think, or amlak al-ajin. So this is actually a good candidate for being the most like physical etymon. But
I
um,
have a question.
yeah,
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, what the heck? That's
Alaikum assalam.
amazing. There's like 30 Semitic. I didn't even know there was like 30 Semitic languages. So I'm
yeah.
assuming most of these are dead, right?
Most of them are dead. I think in the filtering you can kind of see here. Um, no, you can't really tell. I had some kind of grouping somewhere else.
Because I feel
Um,
like in terms of languages that are alive and used, there's only like maybe Aramaic, Ethiopian, Hebrew, Yiddish, and like that's all I knew of last time I
There
studied
is few.
linguistics.
There's few that are spoken but not written, and they
Yeah,
I
even
don't know
Hebrew,
what's
I
the
think, was
classification
revised
for them.
artificially. But I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
don't even know how
because
to
most of
pronounce
these
some
are.
of these. I don't know how to pronounce some of these.
Can you go back, Z, to the can you scroll down a little bit? I saw my
You see geese or this one?
Wow, there's one called Samudic.
Yeah. Oh, there is. Oh, yeah, the Munich
yeah,
bee. Some of
Samudic.
these are some of these are um some of these have alphabets and some of them don't have alphabets. They have cuneiform, which is like I guess kind of like hieroglyphics. But then some of them have cuneiform alphabets, which is interesting too. I don't know much about this kind of thing. Yeah, this is Ugradic, which I assume is probably like one of the oldest ones. So under here in Medica, it has the basic idea of ruling too. Um, so pretty cool. And also in Hebrew here, you can see to be appointed as king or queen. It's used in that sense as well. Um,
Wait, so where's the like? Is there sorry, is there IPA pronunciations? I didn't
I
like
think that's what
notice.
I think that's what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch it to IPA for these old ones. I'm thinking about you know redoing the graph in a lot of ways, but at least adding IPA here or something like that because I think they're pretty much pronounced the same. I mean, or very close, right? Because these are all under the same root, right? So it's all under the same sounds of malaka. They're not like just they're not semantic. They're not only semantically related. They're phonetically related. They're like
I
the
think
history.
the word, the one that's in Hebrew, the first one, I think it has a it's like a long vowel under it. That would be Malik, I think, if I remember correctly. It has been a while since I read Hebrew.
Oh, right. Well, the
But so
color
like, how do
coding
you
here
know? No,
shows
I'm just
you.
wondering, how do you know? Like,
So the
so
color coding
I'm
here.
sorry, I'm really confused. How did
How did,
this like happen?
how,
I'm
do
sorry,
I-
this is
how,
a really
how is the
stupid thing.
data
Like,
collected?
how did, yeah, and
Oh,
like, where
you'll
is it
have to
coming from?
contact
Because most
yeah.
of it is dead languages. And how do you know that this like existed even? And
I am
like, how
not a
did you get it
Semiticist.
online?
I am not a
No, but how did you
Semiticist.
get it on ChatGPT? And how did you get like the what's it called, the written stuff? Because I
Honestly,
feel like most of this isn't even written
it's
down. Like, I don't
it's
think human beings are
like
using this,
I
right?
think there's probably much more information on at Glenn's website. He has information about the sources, which I will plan to import at some point. Uh, I don't know where he has the sources, but you can definitely reach out to him and ask. It's in the raw data. I can show you uh, from there. Oh, there you go. Here, it's under links. Um, so there's a Hebrew lexicon that's probably very young. So because some of these are probably still used in modern Hebrew, even though modern Hebrew is very different from classical Hebrew. Um, Arabic, there's a host of resources. I don't know how you pronounce this, geese or something like that.
I can only see the acknowledgements page.
Uh, oh,
I don't know
sorry.
about
Whoops.
everyone else.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to
Okay.
switch.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is Glenn's website, and this is some of the information he has. I guess he doesn't have information about all the language, but um, yeah, I mean, you could definitely read these articles. We're gonna be here all day, inshallah. I think we're gonna split this into two sessions anyway, but khair, inshallah. I mean, if it's distracting, because I have gotten some feedback that like it's totally unnecessary and distracting for L2 learners, but as we've already established, we're not strictly L2 learners. We're trying to develop. And that's the other thing I should mention about these sessions is that like it's a big part of my um, initiative and my wish to kind of like reform, pedagogical methods in a way, um, and then find different ways to teach and learn. Um, Sorry, I got distracted and lost my train of thought, but let's go back to the names. So yeah, is it distract? Let's see. I mean, sometimes it gets too cluttered and you can't even see it, but if you switch to the table mode, you can see it. So, any other thoughts on Medica? I thought I did have some idea that I forgot to jot down yesterday. But yeah, Amlaka Ajin maybe is also a good candidate for the Etamin, but I think this is kind of the classic way of explaining Medic.
Why
Okay.
don't we just go to Harvard? Because we've already been done Malik. Malik.
No, I'm just because it's the 21st session. I'm just gonna kind of quickly go through, uh, like recap the past 20 names and our Etema
Oh
selection.
wow.
Yeah,
Good
just really
luck.
quick. So
Okay.
yeah, so if anything comes, I mean, I think you can kind of think of it in the sense of Haft, right? Because I mean, like I said, we can link anything here. This is a safe space. But I think like the idea behind Haft in a lot of ways is humility, right? Like, and we'll talk about the Quran, but and so we can be humble and kind of just like I'm not calling anybody out here. I'm just kind of saying we can. I have a tendency to bite off way more than I can chew if you know me a little bit or if you gotten to know me and do too much. So I think it's important to stop. And we were talking about this before we started the recording, me and Ammar. I think that's the idea I wanted to share. The idea of being spread too thin. Like, how would you say that in different languages? I don't really know how you say it in Arabic. I don't know if there's an equivalent in Urdu, maybe. Being pulled in different directions is kind of, a more formal way of saying it in English. But yeah, I think it's good to kind of like lower yourself, right? Like ground yourself. Like, I mean, that's what we're talking about with these sessions, right? Grounding is another word for kind of lowering yourself, right? It's like bringing yourself back down to reality. And I was saying that, like, not only that has this community and these sessions been great for that kind of grounding, but been great, just for what it is, but it's also great in that sense of it, grounds, the work that we're all doing together in a way, because you guys are all, whether you like it or not, you're a big part of the development of this app and the work behind it. I was just mentioning that to to our group, and we call ourselves the Hala Homies. That's the name of the group chat. I think it's like 20-30 guys. I liked Hala Kings. I don't know. Zison changed it to Hala Homies, but I liked Hala Kings because, like, it kind of worked Halaka, right? Kings, right? But I don't know. He changed it to Hala Homies. Um, so yeah, I mentioned that today because it was very much because of Shahan's initiative and like the dynamic between everyone that I was inspired to kind of like, all right, well, let's just talk about this app, these connections, these words. Um, Okay, so actually, this is what I wanted to do, and I was kind of worried about how to do it. Uh, so just in the back of your mind, don't say it out loud, because I'm gonna try and actually create a survey next week, and then we can do it live and maybe even share it with the group and kind of share the idea along. But I mean, it's a big part of my research and something that we've talked about a lot in a lot of ways now, and that's the like framing, right? Fundamental frames. And I mentioned how I was blown away by, like, the idea of Ogden bust, right, as being so elemental, because I never really understood it before, outside of like yin and yang and that sort of thing, ebb and flow in English. Um, so that, and then we can talk about, like, okay, well, maybe that's the most fundamental frame, ebb and flow, qabd and bust. But it's still a bit up in the air. It's still a bit tricky, right? So I've kind of formalize the frames as follows, right? So, and we've talked about all of these before, but like, try to think of it maybe hierarchically, or entertain my kind of hierarchy, and then see which ones you would apply to each name as we go through them, right? And the root, right? And the base concept. So, like Rahman Rahim, right? Think about the root. Think about how you understand that name, right? And then decide if it fits into one of these four frames. And the four frames are, as we've gone over many times, union and separation, right? That's the first kind of thing that we see a lot. Cutting and putting together, right? That's found very, very often at the base level of language. The next is expansion and contraction, which I feel is more like physical level, right? It's like cutting, union separation is like the deepest level of abstraction. and then expansion, contraction, and then high and low, right? Which is where we're at right now, right? So low is in the list before high. So low and high, if you want to think of it, right? And that's really physical at that point, right? Because like in a certain metaphysical sense, there's no such thing as high and low, right? Or not metaphysical. In a certain physical sense, there's no such thing as high and low. It's all relative to your position, right? And then the highest level of abstraction is loss and gain, right? So like that's the story level, right? That's the ultimate context level. That's where we tell our stories, and so I think all of those are kind of involved in epistemology and semiotics and meaning making and all that stuff. So just think about that, I think, as we go through. So, when went through Rahman, Rahman Rahim, Al Malik, Al Quddus. So here we're talking about Quddus, and what we chose as the etamin here, or traditionally we would say Al Masdar in Arabic, but Masdar usually refers to a noun. So I think in English, an etamin can refer to either a noun or a verb. So in here again, we chose the intensive verb actually, which I don't know if that's correct. It might just be, yeah, I think actually it should be the base verb, right? Which is um, qadasa, right? Qadasa fil ard, which means to go far away.
And I can I
Yeah,
to your point. So what I did right now on my notes, that starting with the names, how I think about it is that each name is a full um spectrum, like a with a unique angle to understand life in a way that it's what I'm trying to do is to capture each name in like
mhm,
one word that would be like more like the title of that spectrum. And to simplify it, I'm thinking about it in like a two-dimensional, like with two polarity. And then with each name, it's another dimension. And combining all these dimensions, like when that's I think that's the my understanding of the hadith Rasul sallam, Allah
and
in Allah
ahsaha.
tisad man ahsaha. So,
Yeah.
so that's what I've been trying to do right now. So I'm trying to capture like the what would be a title for that spectrum with
Mm.
the polarity of like the name itself at the center, and there's
So I think what I'll do is I'll also, like, in the survey, I was thinking just having four options, and then we can just see without seeing everyone's without hearing what everyone thinks without being influenced by anyone else's decision, kind of just record our responses, and we can do it. We can update it every week. So if you change your mind, that can reflect in the statistics. But yeah, so I'll provide the four frames as an option for each name, and then an other option, right? So if you think there's a more fundamental or better frame that would fit, even if it kind of stems from one of the fundamental frames that I'm proposing, then feel free, then you can add it. So
that's
I'll
just
just say,
amazing. I love the four frames.
yeah,
Like
I just
my
got this
idea is
idea
building
yesterday.
like you see like starting with one point and then building like the whole understanding of like three dimensions, four dimensions, and then just the concept of what if we can create like 99 dimensions. That would be the deepest
Yeah,
understanding of
yeah,
life
yeah, yeah.
itself.
Well, so that's what I'm trying to do with this yellow line here. So that's trying to highlight, like the main idea that brings all of these other ideas together. That's what the etamin is, right? It's the heart of the meaning. Etamin is the root of the word etymology. So, and the plural is etima. So that's what we're doing. We're mapping etima in a way. But now I'm talking about something even more fundamental, which is like, and then we can get into like different aspects of this as well, because even just these four fundamental frames, they don't really they don't encompass everything exactly, because you still have to explain how how they form at a fundamental level. So like I said, with like I mentioned once, at some point, is that like words in Arabic, for example, and probably in all Semitic languages, and probably in all languages, that just have two sounds, often have the idea of cutting involved. So maybe cutting is like an essential idea in Arabic, or maybe it's different in different languages. But that's just one example of like how the frames can become deeper once you start talking about the letters themselves. Like, and we mentioned this before with like when we talked about like al-Qabid, or which name am I thinking of? Um, the Fa and Qaf contrast. Um, I guess it was when we talked about al-Qabid that I thought about Fa, right? Because Fa is about movement, about speed, whereas Qaf is about, stopping. There are even examples in Arabic of like قالت لي قاف, right? And that's and what she meant was stop, qif, right? Qif is the verb.
Qif is very interesting. Like it's combining both of them.
The verb you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that always gets me back to like imagine what the first sounds were that came down, right? And we know that there's a debate in linguistics, I think, about what came first, the noun or the verb. And I think we know, uh, or I think the 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 conclusion that most Western linguists came to that was that the noun came first, but then Arabic kind of throws a curveball because a lot of the base ideas are verbs. My suspicion is that's like it was nouns. Nouns came first, and then eventually they became verbal, right? And that's kind of like a key aspect of language, right? Like that's the height of language, right? When language when language expands and gets refined in any dimension, right, in any context, any domain, a lot of what happens, a lot of what you see is the more verbiage comes in, right? Because that's you start. I think even Islamically, you have to kind of accept that like the names came first, right, and then from them came verbs, right? Then we started describing motion. First, you start naming objects. Um, I imagine that's how animals work. Like they probably don't really get into the verbal area. They can't really distinguish between past and present very well outside of instinct. They might have some very simple ideas, maybe that they verbiate. I forget what movie it is. It's a famous like Disney movie, and all the animals called the fire. They had a name for fire, um, and it was like some like the red flower or something like that, because they didn't conceive of fire the way we conceive of fire, as like heat and like at least that's what the movie was trying to depict. I forget, it's a famous movie. I can't Jungle Book, or I don't know if it's Jungle Book, but the animals, they had a sense of fire that was like like a monster or something like that, and or like a just like a force of nature, right, that they had to keep their distance from.
Mhm.
um
No, I love
okay,
that.
yeah, I'm taking wide tangents here, but okay. So al-Quddus, yeah. So I'll just say, like, for example, for here, I think like this is a clear example of like the separation frame, right? Because that's actually rare, I think, in the 99 names. Most of them, to me, are about like union and coming together. Even like Qabd is seen as like the negative one, but if you think about it in its literal sense, it's a coming together. And then, I don't know how you think about bust, but bust can also be a kind of coming together too. So that's why I still lean towards like cutting and joining as like the deepest level, and then expansion, contraction. But yeah, I'm curious how people think of it. So yeah,
So what
Qadas.
about, yeah, what about Rahman or Rahim?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So I
The
mean,
womb. So there's both cutting and the
yeah, yeah,
splitting of the
exactly,
cells in the
exactly.
zygote
Yeah,
into the human being,
yeah. So it
as well
doesn't
as
fit
coming
perfectly,
together. It's
right?
both.
Yeah, yeah. It
In some
doesn't
ways,
fit
it's
perfectly sometimes. Yeah, yeah.
right.
Um,
And to
so
have it be the first in the list is, I think, also very critical because it's like the womb, the nafsallah that embraces the entire cosmos. So it kind of comes in the beginning. It has
yeah,
to be there as a womb to contain the rest of the names for Allah to manifest Himself.
yeah. Maybe an all of the above option works, because like yeah, that's a name that I think kind of encompasses all the frames. Um, and not to really like press
Except
the,
Allah, except the name Allah, right?
yeah, of course.
But actually, there is this Ar-Rahman is the only name other than Allah that you can, like in Quran, Allah tell us to call him by Ar-Rahman,
Exactly.
and even like with how the Arabs before Islam they never knew about Ar-Rahman, and when Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam he will say Ar-Rahman, they will say like this is a new name we never heard of before. And it's the only name that in the Quran we can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refer to him as himself as the
Yes.
Rahman.
And also the only name that is a sole word in one ayat, in one sentence. The first
Mm,
Yeah,
ayat of
yeah.
yeah,
Surah Rahman is just Ar-Rahman.
yeah.
And I think that the structurally it connects to the last ayat of Surah Rahman, which mentions, his name and the name is full of glory and majesty, and it kind of leaves it open where the it's full of glory could be referring to Allah Ta'ala, or it could be referring to the name Ar-Rahman itself, that the name itself is full of glory. So it's like a ring structure where we have the first ayah, which is Ar-Rahman, and the last one, which is also referring to a blessed name. And they
Yes.
come together in a ring where the last sentence is also referring to the first sentence.
Yeah, that's
Does that make
beautiful.
That's Surah
Yeah.
Ar-Rahman you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yes.
Surah Rahman.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the ring structure is, yeah, it's a beautiful literary like uh, device. I mean, we find it in all languages, but yeah, you find it in all of art forms too, and then you also find it in the Quran. And I like the way they call it in Arabic. It's more literal, al-lafu and nash. I think al-aks, right? So it's like the
Alal
turning and
okay. Reflection.
yeah. I think there's a technical term in literary theory too, but I don't remember.
Please look it up. That would be beautiful because, especially in the Surah Rahman, it feels. I mean, again, I'm a complete newbie and, minus negative
Now
in.
you're dropping gems. So
No, no, no. But talking about gems, I'm physically seeing gems in Ar-Rahman as if the first four verses, so it's a ring around a finger, and then the first four verses are themselves like a gemstone because they are it felt like it's a blueprint of the cosmos, like Bismillah Rahman Rahim Ar-Rahman Allama al-Quran Khalaq al-Insan Allamahul Bayan. In those four sentences, it feels like it's a summarized blueprint of the cosmos. Allah created, Ar-Rahman.
yeah.
He's not just the most merciful, but also the Raham of Nafs Allah around the cosmos, and then Alam al Quran, the collection of all the signs, which is everything, all the alamat, all the alam is made. The alam is made of alamat, alama. So everything inside the cosmos, and to the end point of creation, which is khalaq al insan. And even if we get further into it, it's actually khalaq al Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi
Sallallahu Alaihi
wasallam,
Wasallam.
right? That is the end point of all creation,
And
and
can be the
then
first too.
and can it was the
The
first.
first,
It
yeah.
is the
The
first.
first
The
and
the
the
the the
yeah.
Nur Muhammadi, the Qalam, the Lohe Azal, and but starting, but what Allah is telling us there, and then again Alamahul Bayan. So insan filled with nisi, and then surrounded by ilm, by alam, by the teacher,
Mm,
by Allah is the teacher. And so it's like a little, it's a ruby right there. It's a
mm-hmm.
round ruby with a cosmos, with the plan of the cosmos at the top of this ring. I don't know whether I'm just hallucinating, but I'm seeing like, actual physical jewelry, and how you set stones like bezels of wisdom. You set stones with a plan, with symmetry, with some beauty, and some of the symmetry is not. It can be left, right, or it can be diagonal symmetry, right?
Are you saying in like the composition of Surah Al-Rahman,
In
like
the composition of the Surah Rahman, it is
from beginning to end?
bejeweled. It feels like it's bejeweled.
Hmm.
In the structure itself, it
Yeah,
feels bejeweled.
yeah. No, I mean there's a chorus throughout, not the entirety of it, but
Yeah.
yeah, but
فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, right? It's so you have this irregular intervals, but in the first time it occurs is in ayah 13. So there's a little gap there because it's the head of the ring. It's the beginning of the ring. But there's a little, I don't know. I'm so sorry taking time, but it just feels like there's a plan. And I teach literature and usually you know talk about any writer's um, structure of things kind of always used to bore me. I have to be very honest. I would confess it used to be like, let's get to the meaning, let's get to the semantics.
Yeah,
But but here the structure is deeply, deeply semantic. It carries meaning,
yeah, subhanallah. Yeah.
yeah, I
right?
mean that's a whole other, lifetime to spend looking at, I think. I think there's a way to kind of try and do it a little bit programmatically, right? Um, but yeah, if you look up ring structure, if you just Google ring structure Quran, you'll see a lot of really beautiful articles that showcase it. Surah Al-Baqarah was the first one I came across. And then like we talked also about like the palindromes in the Quran. That's kind of like a ayah level or certain sentence level, where like you can flip the letters in the word around. Yeah, what a book if I kept bid, right? If you flip those words around, you get the same. If you mirror them, right, you get the same words or the same order of letters. So yeah, you can see Tabarak Asma Rabbika Dhul Jalali wal Ikram as the very last ayah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Right.
there's
So
this amazing, amazing concept when I heard of it changed like how I read Quran, subhanAllah, is that every surah is has like a center point, and then all the ayat are
Yes, exactly.
circles
Yeah,
around it,
exactly.
and
Absolutely.
the biggest circle is the first ayah and the last ayah,
Yeah.
and how that is through the Quran, and then connecting these circles by like last ayah in the surah and the first ayah of the next surah. And it's just amazing how the
So that's a big idea that's also been a huge influence for me because and we have other ways of thinking about it too, um like Yasin is qalb al-Quran, right? That's like a well-known hadith, right? Like it's the center, right? And what we're doing here. So maybe I should talk about the yellow line a bit
and it's
more
the heart
because
more than the center.
yeah,
That's my
heart,
understanding.
heart,
The
absolutely.
heart of the
yeah,
Quran.
yeah, yeah.
The center
It's
is
Where Allah
Surah
resides,
Al-Kahf. Surah
right? And
Al-Kahf
where
is
Allah,
the center of the Quran.
Oh, right,
center
right,
of
right. Yeah,
Allah.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a very important clarification, right? And I think I remember hearing once, I'm not sure, but like I think the very center point of the Quran is shatata, right? That's the word that comes just
Mm.
before the center or just after the center, which literally means like two pieces, I think, right? Or I forget exactly what it means. Um,
I'm pretty sure this, like the middle, you mean like the word before which and after which is like an equal number of words in the Quran. That's فَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ in Surah Al-Kahf.
oh, really?
Mm.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
I came across this. It's funny that you mentioned this because I came across this issue recently in a very technical way. So there's two main data sources that you can get the Quran from, and I should also mention that a big part of the milestones I was kind of trying to showcase it here a little bit is these updates to the Quran. However, it's not just a visual thing. The visual thing definitely still needs some work, but this very soon will be the best search tool that exists, in my opinion, for the Quran. And the interface is not really that important, but I'm gonna there's going to be another custom GPT, inshallah, that's dedicated to searching it, right? So you can talk to it and you can ask it things like, where does love appear in the Quran, or like, where does this person appear in the Quran, and it will, there will be ongoing development to continue like tag the Quran and like add details like, oh, this is a metaphor, or this is the story block, etc. Tag as like, and so that's that's my forte, right? Like, some people call it context engineering. More traditionally we would call it ontology design, right? Like, but and professionally, I'm in tech and information science, and it's kind of like business analysis, but like it's the stuff that you need to do first before you have an effective information system. So that's going to enable
I
a
think
very, very powerful search
Yeah,
for
mashallah, it's
Oh,
amazing.
so yes, to get your points in here. So there's two main sources that you can get the data from. So Quran.com, right, which was kind of spearheaded by Qais Dukes and all his research. And like I mentioned, he died last year. So may Allah reward him and
Allah
give him
yarham.
the highest level of Jannah. But the other source
Um,
is Tanzil.net, and I don't know who they are, or I think maybe they're the older one. So they have two different um, word counts, basically. Like they're all around 77,000, but so in the Corpus Quran, which is this website that we often use, in this data set, they don't split up words as much as Tanzil does, right? So like, so if you have like ya ayyuha, right, in the Quran, that was the first instance that I came across, and it screwed up everything, because like it just, I initially took the Tanzil data, and then I tried to update it with this data so I could take the morphology, and that's how that's what's powering the search. It's going to be like, and you can kind of see it here, right? And most of these words are mapped, so you can go. This thing doesn't work very well, but I got to fix that. But all of these words should be mapped pretty well, and that's
are you showing something on the screen? Because
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
seeing
Yeah,
that. Sorry.
sorry. Yeah, so all the maps, all of the words in the Quran are mapped pretty well. So every word, every word you click on, you'll get the knowledge map, and then you can expand that and see the root. Um, well, it's obviously still in development, but yeah, that's where it should be going so far.
That's amazing. The
Yeah. Let's make a note for myself. Why is that not working? Okay, and so I'm sure you can actually just search that route, of course, too, and see. Oh, it could be some kind of setting that we had. No, yeah, weird. Okay, um, so I intend for this to kind of go 2 sessions. So if you're feeling like I'm making things drag, I think we should still end when we're exhausted. But yeah, like I said, the frame survey should be fun. It'll be kind of cool to share it with the group too and introduce the idea to them. And we can see kind of, I think it'd be a data point that we could add to what we are kind of at writing, is pretty much is like a book. If you look at this NLab thing, they're pretty much, we're pretty, like, I still have to do these. I think I have some of them, but, um, we're writing a book here. I did not know these links didn't work. Well, that's another thing for me to fix. Okay. So next name, Qudus, probably fits best the cutting, in my opinion. But feel free to disagree and add your own perspective. So next, okay, that's still broken. I gotta fix that too. So next is Assalam. And so we said the main idea here was kind of Salima, right? To become not just at peace, not just to submit, but to become like whole, to become sound, to be restored, but also with those other connotations. I don't know if any other word comes to anybody's mind. Silim just came to me, even though we didn't talk about it, I don't think, in the session. I'm pretty sure it's a cognate, but it means stairs, right? Um,
We
and
did talk about
I don't
it.
know if it's we did, yeah. I think we mentioned it briefly, but like I think it's like a just this. I don't remember a connection that stood out to me, but I think it's also maybe a little. I don't know if it's like colloquial or I don't remember talking about it much. I think we just had it in passing, and we were that was in our early days where we felt like we had to end in an hour. Um, yeah. So Salima, to become peaceful, to become whole. Um, yeah. Okay. I guess we can kind of quickly look at the Proto-Semitic, see if there's anything that stands out. I think it's just the same piece, the same ideas. I will share the one I shared with Zanira, the one that was interesting because she sparked the conversation. She was asking about an Egyptian phrase, which Ammar, let us know if you have a similar thing. And I think you guys say the same thing in Sudani, right? But she asked me like, well, what's the meaning of Hatwadina Sittin Dahya? All right, so
Mm.
it sparked a large conversation with many of the people that I speak to about language, um, and yeah, it's a cool deep dive for sure. So we can maybe I'll share that in the group or something. But that was fun. So thank you for that, Zanira. Um, so Salam, yeah. Unless we have any more thoughts, I'll just move on. Um, to become peace, to become at whole, to become restored.
When did Islam get to be used as the name of our path, of the mazhab, of the religion?
I think that's pretty early, right? Like I think it's in the Quran, right? In the Dina in Allah al-Islam.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know exactly, man.
So
It is.
that's the concept of that. The deen
Yeah.
it's always been Islam. The
Salam.
name of the
Yeah.
deen is
Yeah.
Islam through the all the different prophets and all the different revelations.
Mm-hmm.
But each one is a Sharia.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a
A
set
path.
of rules
Mm-hmm.
and
Legal.
laws, and
Yeah.
so that through the different prophets.
Mm-hmm.
And Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he's the Khatim al Nabiyyin, and he's the last messenger. So now the Islam is you can see like the humanity got to the religious maturity through all the different religions to reach the complete
Yeah.
religion for the till the end of time. Because like with Judaism, it was a complete by that time, and Christianity the same. But yeah, Islam, it's the
So,
religion itself from the beginning of time is Islam.
mm-hmm. So Islam itself is made Muslim whole, perfect by our beloved Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That's a
And it
beautiful
makes
way to put
sense.
it.
Hama,
Yes,
Jan?
Jan?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. So the first thing is that Islam actually exists. I mean, if you think about it, just the fact that its name comes from as-salam and we say Allahumma anta salam, it
Yeah.
means, it exists
He
before
is
anything
peace.
because Allah is, yeah, exactly. But
Mm-hmm.
then even before Adam alayhi salam, Islam exists because
Mm-hmm.
Islam is the religion of the universe, like the cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
Um, does
Yes.
Islam or surrenders to Allah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the human manifestation of that is like, when all the prophets come and
Mm-hmm.
every single prophet or like, not prophet, every messenger might have like a slightly different sharia. But it's so interesting that you asked this because it reminds me of there's an ayah in the Quran where Allah speaks about the word Muslim. ملة أبيكم إبراهيم هو سماكم المسلمين من قبل. So it says that you are the millah or the people, I guess, of your father, Ibrahim alayhi salam. He's the one who called you or named you Muslimin before, like earlier. So at least until, yeah, at least from Ibrahim alayhi salam. And in fact, Allah is attributing the name Muslimin to Ibrahim alayhi salam. Like he's the doer of that verb, who was
Yeah.
from Makkah. He named you that. So that's interesting. And then there's, what's it called, debate in the Quran because Allah speaks about how the Bani Israel, they were like Ibrahim and Ismail and Ishaq, they were Yahud or Nasara. And Allah says, قُلْ أَأَنْتُمْ أَعْلَمُ أَمْ اللَّهِ, which is
Mm.
like just, there's a lot of roasts in the Quran where Allah is being really, there's a really sassy responses where Allah says, ask them, would you know better or would Allah know better? So
Mm.
he's saying that actually no, Ibrahim alayhi salam and even up until Musa alayhi salam and Isa alayhi salam, they're not called Jews or Christians, but they're called Muslims. And
Yes.
you are the ones that are like attributing these words Jew and Christian to them, but they were not called that. And then in fact, it's so interesting that he's saying Ibrahim Sammakum because the Quran is addressed to us, and we're not directly the Qawm of Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? Like we haven't met, like we haven't received his revelation, we received Rasulullah's revelation. But then again, when Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam created, like they were building the Kaaba, they made dua for Rasulullah to come. And they said, send
So
a prophet that will teach them the kitab and all of that. And then Rasulullah's coming is also a response to their dua. So it's really interesting that us being, because he's from their lineage, um, Banu Ismail, right? So yeah, that's all.
and I always like it's one of the things that I will always think about and wonder. It's that Ibrahim alayhi salam, he's the father of all the different nations, like all the like the triology of um, religions, like right now the Ibrahimic religions and all the different nations, and even like the theories with all the systems of religions in the world, even the philosophical, even the so I how me personally I think about it that Subhanallah Ibrahim is Khalilullah. He's like the Khalil is like the best friend, right, of Allah, and with his wisdom, um, that's why he made that du'a because he understood how like Benny like from his lineage here with Sarah, um, and the difference with the lineage and understanding of human nature, understanding of civilization itself, understanding of like the difference, and so Allah revealed to him like with to the wisdom that he made that dua. He understood the difference, the mission, and leaving Ismail there in a deeper way than we can understand. And that's why even Yawm al Qiyamah, Ibrahim alayhi salam would be standing to the like watching people going to the Jannah. Like he will be on the right side of the Arsh. And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be on the left side. And even when Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that, the Sahaba asked him like, "Why, Ya Rasulullah? Why are you not on the right side, or like on the side that people going to the Jannah?" And Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam he said, "I chose to be on the left side, so he can make du'a for the people who going in the different direction, and that's out of his rahmah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam." But that status of Sayyidina Ibrahim, that being the best friend of Allah, and that the wisdom comes with that, and being the father of all the prophets, of course, like Nuh alayhi salam before him, and Adam, and but that like after Nuh, like that rebirth of humanity after the flood. So that's how I think about it. Like, and he like had that wisdom, and he named them, named us Muslimin in a way that he understood that the last messenger, the last nation that will have that responsibility of from like the last revelation till the end of time.
Wait, so this just reminded me that it also says Allah also speaks. It's kind of like in a bragging tone about Ibrahim alayhi salam, where he says, "If قال له ربه أسلم قال أسلمت لرب العالمين." When his Lord said to him, "Surrender" or "submit," he said, "I surrender to the Lord of the universes." So that's the same root as Muslim, and so maybe that's why it makes sense that so he's a manifestation of the actual surrender of it, and so then that flows forth from him by him calling us that because this is just something like something I don't know it's such a silly example but now it makes sense like when we were kids and the other kids would like call us names or something my mom would say you shouldn't reply with like a bad word like you shouldn't say if someone got an idiot you shouldn't say you shouldn't call them idiot back but you should just say you are what you say you are like you're whoever says it like you're the one that's saying it which is basically
Yeah.
projection right like we see others as we are and so he was actually Muslim in this sense of actually surrender and the peak maybe of surrender and so he named us that because he's again we see it takes one to see one. It takes one to know one so he wanted us to be that but also he was that and like Allah is specifically speaking that even though everybody is Muslim like all the prophets are Muslim but it's so interesting that God is saying I told him surrender not I told him but his Lord told him that to surrender and he said immediately that I surrender so,
And also, he looked like the Prophet Abraham as well, right?
Yeah.
So and those
Subhanallah.
are really deep
So
connections. And they do occur generation after generation. You'll find someone who looks so much like, such and such an ancestor. And it's not just a
and we say
physical,
his
right?
we say the salam
Yeah.
to him in the tashahhud. Allahumma salli
Exact,
ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala
absolutely.
al yeah. So it's like that's also a salam and
mm,
barakat and salam.
And it's
wow,
within our salat itself. We send salams and barakat to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam every time we do our salat.
Yeah.
subhanallah. I never really thought about that too much. More so than like Adam, who was the
More
first,
so than
literally.
more
Yeah.
so than
Yeah.
So
Because it's like Sayyidina Ibrahim is like a very pivotal point in the history of humanity. Is like
Mhm.
because like with Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, the
Ibrahim kind of
revelation
Ummah,
is
right?
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one dimension too. That he was an ummah by himself,
Mm.
and like so not only that, but the status that all the prophets from his lineage is the father of all prophets. He is the and he revived Tawheed in a way that from Adam alayhi salam we don't fully understand how like the revelation was. They more like building the life like directly with the guidance of Adam alayhi salam and then starring humanity and the foundation to civilization itself. And it got to the way where like to the point with Nuh alayhi salam, the people got to that first phase of worshiping other than Allah. And in a way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the flood it only survived the believers. So it's like took a lot of I don't know, it's more like cleaning the genetic pool out of like what can be like embedded deep into humans to like a core level of existence. And then with that, we start with Nuh alayhi salam. Then Ibrahim alayhi salam came at this a similar like because we have this tendency, and he revived Tawheed in a way till the end of time. I don't know if that makes sense, but like it's the status of Ibrahim alayhi salam and the Tawheed. He's the father of all prophets. And that's it goes deeper than just
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just clicking around as while you guys were talking, and apparently there's a word to them, and I think really in the spirit of al-khaf, right, that we kind of pause as much as we want. Really, like there's no rush, I think, and any idea that comes to mind, any moment that you want to take, I think is more than welcome. Um,
Since you
and
insist, I wanted to just add a fun fact
yeah,
about salam, which I can't believe I didn't say this when we were speaking about salam. But you know
yeah,
how
it's
there's
hard
like
to
different people on like Instagram and stuff. There's like New Age spirituality, like people who do like energy readings.
right,
So there's this one guy, and he's not Muslim or anything, right? They're just like New Age spirituality. They don't follow. They're spiritual but not religious. So one of them, he has this thing. Actually, there's a whole I don't want to say science. Some would say pseudoscience, but there's a whole method to it. It's called a map of consciousness. So basically, the idea is that everything vibrates at a certain level of consciousness. And so they found that the highest consciousness is actually peace consciousness. And and so this guy, like he does this thing where he reads what consciousness everybody's at, including like celebrities. So there's like sometimes he reads celebrities. It's actually a low key, some would say an invasion of privacy, because he'll just read like all their past traumas and say, oh, he has like a trapped emotion of um being humiliated by his father at the age of 6, and then he posted on it. So anyway, but then so he scanned cases, like the cases in the world that vibrate at the highest level of consciousness. And again, he's not Muslim, he's not any kind of religion, and he found that the highest level of consciousness, which is I think 600 peak consciousness, is the Kaaba is at that vibration. And who built the Kaaba? That's right. That's all. That's
Ibrahim.
all I
Yeah.
needed.
But subhanallah, he
What?
rebuilt the Kaaba, Sayyidina Ibrahim.
Wait, so but what's the last point? Like the Kaaba has how is he measuring? Like what
It's
is?
like you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't get it. I'm sorry, but I don't even get it myself.
No,
I'm not saying that because you
I
wouldn't
get
get it. Like
the
you wouldn't get it, but I don't get it either. So
yeah. No, I
yeah,
get
but
the idea. Like I totally kind of agree with that.
he
Like
just okay. Wait, I'll tell you. Okay, have you heard of kinesiology, muscle testing?
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
basically he just tests with his muscles and he says, for example, is Kaaba at no? So he'll say out loud, okay, Kaaba is at 500 reason consciousness. Let's or love consciousness. Reason is I think much lower. So he'll say, I love consciousness. So then his muscles will test no. Because if his muscles, if it's true, if you say something that's true, then your muscles will hold up to resistance. Whereas if you say something that's false, your body will like weaken and it will respond no. And so the weakened response means no, and the strong response means yes. So
Reminds me of how
yeah, so
like
that's
when
how
you
he does it.
smile, you use less muscles than when you frown.
No, so it's basically based on kind of like when people have bones, like literally, I think, like chiropractors use it as well to see like if everything is aligned properly, like all the bones, and if the arm is, yeah, it's anyway, it's a bit pseudoscientific, which I don't have an issue with. Like I do, half the stuff I do is pseudoscientific. So I'm not saying that as a slur in a derogatory way, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of people don't believe in it and like they don't get it. But yeah, but I'm just saying that he doesn't have like he's not Muslim or anything, and he rarely like I've never seen him post anything about Islam. Besides that one saying that that's the place at the highest level of consciousness, and he has like a list of a bunch
I
of
love that.
places. Yeah, and he'd be talking to like aliens and like random beings and stuff. So it's a bit really shady that someone like that would have this finding. So he has no like incentive to say, oh yeah, Islam is, or like the Kaaba. But yeah, he found that specifically in Mecca, that is, even I think one of the names of it is Dar es Salaam, right? If I'm not wrong. But yeah, like it's just the fact that it's the Kaaba, which is built specifically by Ibrahim alayhi salam, who is called to surrender and he surrenders. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, lots of different thoughts there. I mean, I think we definitely have our own. Like everyone has energy. I think we'll definitely get into this later. Maybe not. I don't know when, but once we get to the Quran, I think, I'll non-metaphor, and like wings is us having wings is a cool idea. But yeah, the thought that came to mind, I think initially when Huma was talking, when she brought it up about what is Islam, or like when did Islam come, it's interesting. It reminded me of the phrase that you find in the Quran, وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. I forget which prophet that says that. Um,
I
but
think it's Ibrahim alayhi salam.
is it Ibrahim? Right?
Yeah.
Because so then the question is like, did that
I think it's
how
Musa alayhi salam, but I'm gonna look it up.
I think it's multiple. I think it's more than one prophet, right? So
But yeah, I think it's like for their own time because no one else
Yeah,
was
his
Muslim at
own
that
time.
time.
That's my
Yeah.
yeah,
understanding.
because they maybe didn't have that word. They maybe didn't have obviously they didn't have Arabic, right? So there's a question I think that we kind of brought up before about like uh or somebody kind of brought up about like the idea of lisan al-hal, right? So like how you speak without your tongue, or without words, right? And how that's kind of, or nonverbal communication, how that's kind of framed maybe in Islam and in Arabic. Um, oh, I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, so yeah, I guess y- you know, Allah is kind of paraphrasing in a way, right? That's so Ibrahim might have said that, he might not have actually said it with his mouth, right? He might have said it with his body. He might have said it with his being, his heart, or something like that. Um, or at least he might not have said it, with the actual Arabic. He might have said it in some other language, but Allah is translating it in the semantic sense, which I think is kind of an interesting point, because I think it happens uh, in a lot of different ways, right? Just pay attention to whenever Allah says "and He said," right, or "and they said," right, because maybe they didn't literally say it, but whatever their action is, whatever their purpose in the rhetoric of the Quran is at that point in time, that's what Allah is highlighting, right? Like their attitude towards something, or their what they say about something, because what we say is so important, and the words that we use and how we name things, right? That's one of the maybe the most abstract ways to kind of fundamental ways to abstract Islam.
So I was thinking, actually, my professor said this that um yeah, this lisan al hal versus I think he said lisan al maqal. Does that make sense? Like, is that grammatical? If it is, then he
Yeah,
said it. If it's not, then he didn't say it. Okay, then he said that.
Yeah, yeah.
So he said it in the context of the alast, the yom al alast. So qalu bala. So he said we didn't say bala with our tongue, but we said it with our heart, like in the knowing and surrender and not surrender, sorry, the witnessing. And that makes so much sense because then it's not with our actual tongue because we didn't have these tongues because it's in a non-corporeal world, right? So like there's no tongue. Like the spirits, yeah, it was before we were
yeah,
put into bodies. So that means we
yes,
couldn't actually have said it with a physical tongue.
Right. Isn't there also, I guess, what just came to mind is like, إنا عرضنا الأمانة على
yeah. That's exactly what
right,
the girl
but
is saying.
it's
Yeah,
yeah, I forget the rest of the ayah there, but like, we respond to Allah at some point, right, or in some way, right? We place the trust upon the earth and the mountains, I think, and they refuse, فأبين أن يحملنها, right, and they refuse to carry it. They can't, they don't want to carry it, but the human being said, I'll carry it, right.
yeah,
uh
Okay, so that reminds me of the other one. It says, um, قالتا أتينا طائعين. They both said, like the heavens and the earth, I think, that Allah
yeah,
created them and then said,
right, yeah,
قال لهم, yeah, like just come to me, or willingly or unwillingly. And they said,
yeah,
they both said, we come willingly. And so again, like, they don't have tongues. Again, it goes back to like, what is kalam, what is maqal, what is nutq, because it says, أنطقنا
it's the whole
الذي
series,
أنطق
right.
كل شيء.
Mm.
Yeah, so, but then it's, yeah. But I feel like, we are digressing too much.
So say again.
I said I feel we digress too much. Like we're not talking about salam or
Oh,
anything.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think we can take the liberty. I mean, I don't know. It's 20 sessions. This is the 21st session. I think we can well at least finish, a review, and then, you know, khafd and raf'a. I think, they have to go together anyway. But we'll get back on track, inshallah. I think, just that idea that we just mentioned, that could be a whole series. Just go through the Quran one by one every time you see the word qawl, right, or some reference to qala. He said, I guess not,
No.
qawl, but not from Allah, right? How Allah paraphrases us and describes us, describes our speech. And I don't know if you noticed on the screen here, but this is kind of interesting. I never noticed it before, but it's a very rare form, tamaslama. So I guess that's what we're talking about as, like, وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, right? I was trying to find it here. Did anybody find it? Who said it? Is it more than? Is it? Yeah, there's 39 here. So yeah, maybe I'll find it later. But yeah, I guess that's what it. Tamaslam is a strange form, rare form. Lane here has it as like QQ2. I forget what that means, like quasi something. But anyway, okay. Let's continue. As-salamul mu'min. So mu'min and muhaymin can kind of combine, right? It has that interesting morphology because it they both come from the same root, right? And the central concept here being again, like peace and safety, to be like, and very profoundly, I think in Islam and in Arabic, the idea of belief comes from that which is feels safe and secure. So that's the base. That's the etamin that's highlighted here. Oh, and yeah, I wrote a note to explain this. I initially I thought maybe I'll make the line from the root to the main idea, right? But then, like, the root is really an abstraction. It doesn't really exist, you could say. Some people argue this. It's just like convention that we use to kind of help us organize the field, the semantic field. So then I thought, okay, well then maybe just let me make it an etymonic pair, an etamin pair of some sort. Maybe it's two words together, really, that give you, like, the pair is what gives you the bigger picture, right? So amina, the verb, and mu'min, the noun here. So that was my idea. And so muhaymin, of course, it's not going to work until I fix that. So muhaymin, as we said, is actually mu'min, but it goes through several stages of simplification, I guess you can say. And it's the same root, so same ideas, peace and safety, but then being associated to the higher level idea of belief. Aziz, one of my favorites, because I think
But
it's
sorry, so
not.
mu'min and muhaymin,
Yeah.
what's like the differentiator between?
So essentially, oh, right, okay, I should mention that. So mu'min is the muf'il form, so the agent form, the doer form, or the causal form, the instrumental form. You can kind of think of it as too, right? Because the base morphological form for the agent is fa'il, but as we see sometimes, like fa'il can be used, right? Like aziz, like rahim, it can be used in the sense of the active participle of the agent, of the doer. So mu'min is the causal or the instrumental kind of agent, right? It's still an agent, it's still a doer, but it has like a slightly different sense with that meme in the beginning, right? And meme, I think, also always has the sense of like material, like to the body. So yeah, mu'min is the base active participle form, and then muhaymin is just the mufa'il form, right? But it goes through several stages of change, of morphological change, right? So it's mu'min at first, and then mu'min either becomes muhatmin or mu'ahmin, and then eventually it just becomes, and then the hat becomes a ya too. So that's one of the other inqilabs they call it, like flipping of letters. And there's a lot of different like phonotactic rules for it, but I haven't. I'm not an expert in it, and I haven't found great resources on it. But the hat can also change to a ya. I can't think of any other examples, but then it becomes muhaymin
Mm.
instead of muhatmin. But yeah, it's just the mufa'al form. So like, you know, uh, we don't say mudris, but we say mudarris, right? So that takes the intensive agent form. And can't think of another example off the top of my head of, you know, the muf'al form and then the mufa'al form. So it might be a rare combination. Um, mu'lim, mu'allim, sometimes it's not used. It's used in the you know, the passive form, describing an object or an action that happened. But yeah, I love morphology. تصريف الكلمات, the winds of worlds of meaning. I like to think of it as. Okay, Aziz, unless there's any thoughts. Aziz is a cool one because again, it's one of the first that we get to where we have a very concrete etymon, right? Like, and that's Ardun Izaz, right? Izaz means for something to be hard and impenetrable. So, you know, we talked about Aziz being very similar, you know, in sense really to like Habib, right? It has the same form, has the same kind of, you know, morphological sense or morphological sense, if you like the technical terms. It's the passive participle form, but you know, it can be flexible and used in the active form. And then Azaz, I don't know much about that form actually. I think it's kind of a rare form. It almost sounds like a plural, but anyway, it means hard ground. So like usually ground that's high up actually as well and separated from regular land. So that's kind of, you know, maybe this is, I didn't think about this until just now, but maybe this is one example of uh, another example of separation, cutting separation frame. Because like I said, I don't think there's many. I'm curious how else people think of this, because you know, Azaz is hard ground, and associating that with Allah, right? With associating that with, like we said, like Aziz, Inta Azizi, right? Like you are my Aziz, you are my Habibi, right? But like, you know, in an elevated sense, in the sense that you're strong and powerful and impenetrable, and you know, nothing can conquer you, and I can lean on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to frame that in any way that's not like, yeah, I guess the best frame there really, and I think maybe a lot of these actually are the better frame, is one that we haven't talked about much. I've only mentioned it in passing because it's really kind of coming from a literary um, angle that we don't take too much, which I think we can, and that's gain and loss, right? Or loss and gain. You know, that's another like fundamental of the four fundamental frames that I mentioned. You know, union, separation, extraction, contraction, expansion, high and low, and loss and gain, right? And that's the fundamental frame of like stories, right? And in our lives, right? Um, will we be of the winners or of the losers? And yeah, so that's another frame that you can kind of, maybe you could probably apply that to all of them. Right? I think that's such an expansive frame. You know that. But yeah, I mean, that's maybe we can talk about that when I have the survey, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Ardun, Azaz, hard ground, separated from regular ground, isolated, high up. I
Can I
think
add
also,
something?
of course.
Yes, I've been obsessed with this name recently and just meditating on it more than more than other names, let's say. And I think Omar, you're the one that said that it's Aziz and Hakim is the most common collocation of two names in the Quran.
I don't remember that well, but
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you said it because I know I
that's
didn't
a
say it.
that's a
Anyway,
that's a
so
good note
then,
to write down.
yeah, so it's so interesting. Like, I feel like this name is so like, we're underestimating it. We're sleeping on it. Um,
Uh,
and I feel like it's a very close, like, it's a very close name of essence. Like, you know how everybody knows Rahman and Rahim, but not everybody takes Aziz as importantly as Aziz, as precious as we should. And one of the reasons is because when Allah speaks to Musa alayhi salam, he says, he introduces himself as one of the names is Al Aziz. إنه أنا الله العزيز الحكيم, I believe. But yeah, it's so interesting. It again goes back to mirroring. Musa alayhi salam is really precious and beloved to Allah, to the point that Musa alayhi salam, if you start like just reading the Quran from the beginning, it's like Alama Adam al Asma'a kullaha, right? First story, first human being, first prophet. And next thing is like Ya Bani Israel. And then it's like Musa alayhi salam, straight up, like it's just like a jump from Adam alayhi salam to Musa alayhi salam. And I was constantly, repeatedly talking about Musa alayhi salam to the point where he's the most mentioned human being by name in the Quran. And that shows that, he's very aziz to Allah. And then Allah says to him, وَأَلْقَيْتُ عَلَيْكَ مَحَبَّةً مِنِّي, that I covered you in love from me, which is something no one else is told by God Himself in the Quran. And so he's a manifestation of Aziz. Musa al Islam is a manifestation of Aziz. And again, that's why, like with the whole projecting slash mirroring thing, Allah introduces Himself to Musa al Islam as Aziz and Al Aziz. And the way that I linked, there's so many ways that it links to the not barren ground, but to hard ground, impenetrable ground, is that in the way that many times Allah uses this method where He's like, the life of this world is like when the trees, yeah, it's like when rain comes and revives the dead earth, and then it dies again, and the plants grow up, and then they die and they become yellow hay. And so it's like this movability, right? But it's a movability of like change and being affected by the seasons, which is what all of us are while we live here. And that I think is a good contrast to understand Al Aziz. He's unaffected by the seasons. It's a ground that it doesn't matter. The water, even if water comes, it's not going to be affected. It's not, but it's in a positive sense, as in that it is unmoved by circumstances, which is what God is. God is unmoved by circumstances. And that's how
And
like we can, like embody that name as well by being unmoved by circumstances. And at the same time, because of Aziz also me, I this name, like the more I meditate on it, the more impossible I find it to no name actually can be translated to TBH, but especially this one, there's no way, especially like the actual translation that is mighty, like that's like it pales in comparison to the actual like depth of the name, the meaning of it. And so Allah is also Aziz in the sense of Aizaz in power. So He's a power. This is like one of my translations that came to me recently while meditating on Aziz is He's the immovable mover. So He's the power that is not moved by anything, but everything is moved by His power.
yeah,
And
subhanallah.
His Yeah, so and so this again, another manifestation of this is when Allah splits the sea for Musa alayhi salam. Like the sea doesn't, stand up like mountains, except, and then he says in when that story is being told, he says that one, I think, when rabbaka lahu azizur rahim. So it's like that is also a manifestation of Aziz, that he can move the sea to become mountains, and
And you
it's
know
just
the first thought,
immovability.
the
Mhm.
first thought I had with you talking about Aziz and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's one of the names that when He revealed to Musa and talked to Musa, because in context with the circumstances, Pharaoh was Aziz on his qawm, like his people thought of him as like the Aziz of them. And even before Pharaoh, from like Yusuf time alayhi salam, Azizu Misr, the king of Misr, they call him Aziz. And because Pharaoh is telling his people that I'm your God, and he like that dominance, that sovereignty, that um, so he's like Aziz on his people from like their own perception, limited perception, of course. And in the same time, that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Musa the mission to go against the Aziz. So he's reminding him he's Al Aziz. And I think that's the first thought I had. It's like it's an amazing uh, connection that you made with Musa alayhi salam and Al Aziz.
Interesting. Yeah, lots of different ideas there. I just noticed this. I don't know if this is right. This could be wrong because the entry doesn't say anything. But aza as the idea of shaking. I don't know if that's accurate or not. I have to check that from the original text.
Can I just say something else real
Yeah.
quick? Yeah,
No.
so the other thing is, this, I believe this is also linked to like God's miraculous help. Like when God intervenes in a way that's really miraculous, it's a manifestation of Aziz. So Allah says, "Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina," and then وَيَنْصُرَكَ اللَّهُ نَصْرًا عَزِيزًا.
Mm-hmm.
So Nasr that comes, that is help. Again, I think we should do another session for like all the words for help. There's like Nasr, there's
Just make a list of.
Aun, there's Aun, there's like
All the
yeah,
words
there's a
of
whole
what?
bunch of them.
Sorry,
Help, like
help.
Nasr.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, Aziz is linked to Nasr because a lot of times Allah says Nasran Aziza. It's like a help that is Aziz. It could be powerful, but I think it means a help that moves, but it is itself unmoved. And that it's very directly in the case of the splitting of the sea,
It's
Musa
very
alayhi
what?
salam, but I think pretty much it's very obviously like in the case of splitting of the sea of Musa alayhi salam, that's like Nasr and Aziz. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't say Nasr, but it's like an obvious manifestation of it. But also, I think in pretty much, I think in Surah Shu'ara, this is the refrain that is like, Inna rabbaka lahu al-azizur rahim, if I'm not mistaken. And it's like all the stories of all the prophets in their, like, thing and everything, like they're all their specific situations. But then God keeps repeating that it's like, He's Aziz al-Hakim. Oh, sorry, Aziz al-Rahim, many times. And so then it's like the Aziz is kind of tempered or like softened by Rahma. And so that's why that's a name, because it's a name of both extreme Jalal and Jamal, but you want the Rahma to go with it. Because otherwise, like, it's really hard, impenetrable ground. Like you cannot move God, but you are constantly moved by God. And so when God moves for us, or when Aziz moves for us, then that's great for us. But Allah is saying, like hinting that that's a manifestation of Aziz ar-Rahim, of the flavor of
Yeah,
Rahmah
the
added to it.
combination is
Otherwise,
yeah.
it would be too much. Yeah, otherwise, I feel like the Izzah of God is too much for us to like handle. Too Jalali.
Yeah. So all
And
of this. No, go ahead, please.
like also in a way that all the with the connection that it's with the all the prophets and all their what they how Allah mm, helped them to be to to win the fight against the that's itself it's a rahmah for humanity because it's with all these nations and with the prophets, and if they believe, that's the rahmah, and if they don't, they will get the punishment, and that resetting and for the humankind, like the journey of life itself, resetting it to the right path, and that's like can be like that's like the rahmah, literally that's saving humanity.
Yeah, I think we also mentioned like a distinction between like power and strength, right? Like strength is being like the ability to resist. There's even though we see overcome right here, right in the middle, but the ability to withstand, the ability to filter out, even like separate, right? So that's the frame that I keep thinking about now. And then like power being like external, right? Like pushing outward, like, but I mean, you also have like I said, maybe to shake here, right? So I also like got the sense of like Al-Aziz is like that which, like, it also just eliminates and pushes out anything that's um that's against it, right? That just pushes away anything that you're Aziz, right? And Azizi يمنعني من كل شيء, right? Like he protects me from everything, right? Or uh, mana is an interesting word we should add to our opposites list, Zanira. Yeah, so those are some of the thoughts there. So
No,
this,
so that's actually how I see, like in a Jamali way, like in terms of power and strength. I see as that, like it's like the power of a baby to move the parents without doing anything, just by being lovable and adorable and being precious and valuable. Like, and even things that are valuable to us, like gold, it doesn't do anything. So it's like it's not moving itself, but it moves. Like people work, especially in my part of the country, people work really hard to make a lot of money to buy and hoard a lot of gold. And so it's like value that moves, like value that is power just by being valuable. Like that's one other translation of Aziz. And also that, like just gold and like value being linked, that also reminds me that this name is also linked to Malik. قل اللهم مالك الملك تؤتي الملك من تشاء وتنزع الملك ممن تشاء وتعز من تشاء وتذل من تشاء بيدك الخير
yes,
إنك على كل شيء قدير. So
yeah,
Malik and Aziz are linked. Kingship and Aziz are linked. I would say they're kind of the same, like even they're definitely the same register, but they're probably, yeah, they're both names of royalty. And even in Musa alayhi Islam's story, there's a Malik and he is Aziz. And then Yusuf alayhi Islam's story also, I think there's Khal al Malik inni ara, right? The Malik is the one that has the dream, and there's the Aziz of Misr. And then, but there's also a sense of helping, and I think this is something that I
yeah,
saw about. I don't know if it's linked to also another word, but I'm not actually sure if that's a word in the Arabic language. But is there something with the root finds like Azara? Because
Azar.
that's the one that Azara. No, it's just like Azaza, but with a ra at the end instead of.
Oh, Azar. Oh,
So
well, we can check very easily.
yeah, so that's the one that they say in the Bible that God created woman or wife to be Azara or like to be a helper for man, and but then he's not, but it's not like a helper in a secondary, in a sense that someone's like a sidekick or a secondary person, but because apparently in the Bible that word is also associated to God, and I thought the closest thing that I could think of was Aziz. And in the Quran, I think in Surah Yasin, Allah says, فَعَزَّزْنَاهُمْ بِثَالِث. He's, be what? Yeah, like with a third person. He sent
Yeah,
two people and people weren't listening to them. So he strengthened them
yeah,
or gave them more power and helped them with a third Nabi, I think, or like a messenger. Not messenger, but Nabi probably.
yeah. And I guess I was gonna mention this later because you know why else do we create lists? But the idea of non-metaphor has really, really stuck with me, and I think it's a very poignant perspective, or I don't know how to describe it, Zanira, but your insistence, really stuck with me.
You're welcome. It's okay.
Yeah,
Put me in the
and
acknowledgements.
yeah, and like like when Allah says وَخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ, there's no ka, right? There's no like Allah's not saying, like it's not there's no indication that it's a metaphor. Well, in English, technically, a metaphor doesn't use any kind of because and you were saying was like if it's not a simile, then it's not then it's real, right? Or it's not a metaphor. Um, which I think is debatable from a literary or linguistic perspective. But like,
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I think that too. I was just,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but it's still a beautiful idea. Like maybe we do have wings, right? Maybe our energy is some kind of wing. I saw some random reel today about like some guy found some garbage in the ocean, like, he's in some Caribbean beautiful island, and he takes the bag out and he throws it. He's like, talking about how he's cleaning the ocean or whatever it is and how he finds it. And then like suddenly you see a dolphin like just jump out and like it literally looks like jumping for joy, right? Maybe it didn't see it, but like somehow maybe it sensed it. Is my intuition, right? Like, I don't know how I got to that from what you were saying exactly. I don't remember what kind of ticked it off, but I think, like, we don't, our perception is limited. We've established that many times, right? So like we affect each other in ways that we cannot see or perceive, and Allah affects us in ways that we cannot see or perceive. And so does the earth and every dimension of reality. Yeah, so I forget exactly how we got there from Aziz, but yeah, I mean, in terms of being, in terms of strength versus power, I think it's like um, one dimension away. You could say maybe. I don't know. I got my my main out there, so I think we have like a sense or something like that, and Aziz has this kind of like. Of course, trying to describe Allah in different ways other than the words of Allah is, a futile effort. But I guess in short, all I'm saying is yes, I agree with you that we slept on this name a little bit, and many of the names, right? Especially when we started out in the beginning, just talking for an hour. Now we go 4 hours and we still don't cover everything. But subhanAllah.
Can I say something?
Of course.
Because you mentioned futile effort, and I was having this discussion with a Sunni friend about like some Sufi books, and they mentioned the same thing. They said, yeah, but I mean, the Quran is still the best source, and that is extremely true. But we kind of juggled around the idea of
Yeah.
about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how it is futile describing his, like talking about him with anything else other than Quran. And I was thinking, it is because I remember telling him, yeah, but the attempt is still worth it. I mean, I feel like it is what makes it futile, because you said the word futile, and alarms went on
Yeah.
in my head. Like what exactly makes it futile? It is because normally something that is futile implies not getting, like not achieving what it was meant to achieve, or not reaching certain heights. And I was thinking that is somehow self-implied. uh Zinira uses a phrasing in and of itself. I think, I don't know if it's good here, but I promised myself I would try to use it.
English has a lot of strange, useless phrases. Actually is one of the coolest ones, I think.
Yeah, and I was thinking that what makes it futile, it is probably that it's not all encompassing, which is fine. I think the attempt is beautiful and it's worth it. I don't think we will ever be able to like fully grasp or fully put into words or fully understand, but I think it's in this case the metaphors work beautifully too, and they could be real, and
Yeah.
metaphors that are real, metaphors that are not real. It's actually the ongoing like talking about Allah, it's like going to the gym and you're exercising, but you don't have a six pack after a week. It's just it might take a while, I don't know. Or maybe never, maybe you will never have one, maybe you will never, but it will be like, you will definitely be healthier than not doing any kind of sport, or like not eating, not taking care of. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a
Yeah. No, I think no, thank you for the encouragement, because I think you brought one of the ideas maybe that was lurking in my mind that I couldn't connect. And that's like, one of the ideas I get is kind of like armor, right? Like Aziz is kind of like an armor for you, in a way. Allah protecting us and pushing away at everything that He doesn't want for us in His like armored form is what Aziz kind of speaks to me, and it also comes a little bit from the sound, right? Like I don't know if anybody or Amari, maybe you can speak to this a little bit. Like Azaz reminded me of Izaz, in Arabic, and I don't know if that's just I don't think it's just a Muslim thing, but we say it to mean like glass, right? It's like a hard thing, but Izaz is a little bit softer, maybe, or I don't know exactly where it comes from, if it's even Arabic at all. But
Is that just the way like to pronounce zujaj?
Zujaj, yeah. Well, again, like the z sound, the
Yeah.
sound, like yeah. So this is again a bi radical root, right? So two letters or two sounds only, mainly, right? And that usually like intensifies or simplifies the meaning, I guess I should say, but like it's also very intense too. So azza, right? Like the each letter kind of comes out a little bit more than with a triliteral root. So ayn, a lot of times to me has the sense of like enveloping and covering and like generality. Um, you know, that we could deep dive into that by doing like a root search and looking at letters. But like my own name comes to mind. Omar, Ayn itself, the word Ayn, the letter, the name of the letter is homophonous with the word for I. So that sense is there too. And then the z sound is like very like almost opposite to Ayn in a way, right? It's like very like underpinning, very very underlying. The best way I think to get a sense for z is to take the dot off, right? And then you can compare like another kind of opposite layer, opposite dimension, of like ra being like that which is very visible, right? Very very apparent. Ra is one of the most common sounds in all languages. You have re is king in Latin. Ra was like Egyptian king, right? Similar cross-linguistic thing, false cognate probably.
We have an Urdu Raja
Well,
king.
Raja, yeah, and then Ra'a, right, in Arabic means to see, right? Ra'i is opinion. So and then contrast that with za, like it's very fundamental, very underlying, very imperceptible almost. Yeah, so I get all those senses from
Wait, how's that
Aziz.
imperceptive? So when you were saying za, I was just thinking about like again movement because I feel like the first time we spoke about this, you said
Yeah,
za
movement,
sounds a lot like
very
sound that moves
right,
and stuff.
buzzing.
And I was
Hmm.
thinking about especially when I've been meditating on Aziz and specifically the image of a connecting to a beneath me, like an earth that is immovable. And I think of literally the opposite of that is إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها. And that's also za. And it's like when you said underlying, underpinning, that's like literally an earthquake is like the underlying layers of the earth move and it shakes like what's above it. And so I feel like that's
Yeah,
another amazing contrast for Aziz. It's like he's unmoved by any movement. Any layer movement does not move Al Aziz.
the way you connected that إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها,
Yeah.
the day when the earth shakes, it's shaking. If you translate it literally, if you think about it literally, the earth always, like it's implying that the earth is always has a shaking, right? It always has like a kind of vibration to it. You can say in a very, it's a bit of a stretch, but yeah, that was the thought that came to mind. The day of judgment is when that like that vibration is taken to its ultimate end, I think. But yeah, Za's movement is very very good and accurate and apt. I don't know how to, once, like I said many times, once you're talking about sound itself, right, in its most fundamental form, describing it is subjective, somewhat arbitrary, even, and you can only really, it's only a pointing act, right? Like Wittgenstein said, right, I think, or um, yeah, I think of it Wittgenstein, right? So like we're just pointing to what we really mean. We can't say it, and that's, I think, part of the beauty of language too, right? It's like the most beautiful language is really a cutting edge, right? To use the English phrase, right? It's really like the like a limit, right? That's what we talk about often with like ibda'. You know, when we say, I always say it in Arabic, right? Like uh, or I think we've also conceived of it in the sense of like improvisation, right? Like flow state, banat. Um, yeah, that's a wild tangent. Any other
I
thoughts?
think
So
you can.
I was thinking,
Sorry, super short, Zinira. I think you can use Wittgenstein a lot to prove what you want to convey about it. It's like I think you can actually, because you're basically taking it like you, yeah, you're taking his idea to the 21st century, and you're saying, like, look at Arabic. Let's
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
more.
yeah. No, very true.
so
Uh,
you know, say what's it called? It says here, فلان يعزاز المرض. فلان, sorry, فلان يعزاز المرض. And that reminds me, there's a
Me'azaz, you're saying?
dua.
What's the word? You Me'azaz?
Yeah, it's right here. It's next to the OHH. Right.
This this one?
That I don't. That's probably not an OHH, is it? It's
Mu'taz.
probably
No, you mean this thing?
no here next. No, go left, slightly left.
Oh, I see.
Yes, right there. Yeah. So there's this.
Yeah, Me'azaz. I also saw
Yeah,
Azuz, right? I saw Azuz being like the opposite of it seems like opposite of Aziz.
Aziz is like what every person here is called. Like that's just a nickname,
Yeah, it's a
nicknamization
nickname
that we were
for
associating with.
Abdulaziz.
Oh, really? Here it's like here the name is
It's
is
always
is not, it
it's
has a negative
always that
connotation. Yeah.
foul. I was telling you, this is the. I feel like this is the nicknamized wasn't that I've heard. Everybody's some wasn't of Aziz. Ahmed is Hamoud.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
everybody's some sort of foul.
Abdullah is
Anyway,
Abud, and yeah.
Abud, yeah, exactly. So there's a dua. It's called Dua Nasri, I think, and I think so actually because there's two duas, but I feel like this is the one that I'm gonna yeah that's linked to the story. But basically, I think in Algeria when they were colonized by the French, they used to recite, like the Sufis would get together and they would recite Dua Nasri. I think it's the Shadili Dua. And so then these guys were so terrified of it that they banned the recitation of Dua Nasri. But Dua Nasri is really beautiful and like it's amazing. It's great to recite now and like, times of when the Ummah needs like, help from Allah. So, and victory. So basically, in that, like it starts off, there's a lot of really beautiful names in there of Allah and Ya Munji al Halka, wa Ya Mannanu. And yeah, so then in part of that dua, it says, so it's basically like, it's basically a poem. A lot of these duas are poetic, it's really poetic. And so it starts off with like, really khafd, abasing ourselves or like complaining to God and saying, God, like, the situation is really horrible. And then appealing with the dua. So for instance, part of it says, ضاق النطاق, that words are like lost. And then it says, عز الدواء يا سريع يا قريب. So I was thinking about that, about like, what does it mean? عز الدواء, that it's become really difficult. Or
Yes.
like that's what it means, right? To become difficult is like someone that's not easily moved by others.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it has like all these shades to it, of course. But Azza is like tamanna. Became difficult to obtain. That's
Az
when Azza
Azaz.
Shayu.
Oh, Azaz, yeah.
And here the difference between Azuzun wa Azzuz. Azzuz is like with a
Oh,
shidda.
Azuz. Oh, okay. Yeah,
Azzuz
Azuz.
is that's the nickname for like
Yeah.
Abdul Aziz.
Yeah. Okay.
And even like Mu'taz, call them Azzuz to some people. Izzu, Azuz. That's like nicknames. But here, Azuzun, which is
Yeah,
a different.
this is an interesting form because it's a rare form, I think, but it has a negative. It has both a negative and a positive connotation because it means somebody that has a lot of wealth and property, but is stingy with it. So Azuz Faul, rare form. That's kind of interesting. Once I finish tagging all 50,000, well, I think there's only like 45,000 I have to do. Once I finish doing that, then we can see all the words that have all these different interesting forms, inshallah.
Inshallah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
When do you think that will be? I mean, did
If,
uh,
if you
will
know,
you change prefix?
if you
When
know,
we're 500 years old.
I'm talking. I mean, like it's like 45,000, right? Because Lane actually, I discovered. Yeah, I think I mentioned this before, but Lane actually did tag the verbs, right? He tagged them with the numbers, and he probably didn't realize how helpful that was when he did it. But the nouns, I don't think there's a clear pattern for, you know, you can kind of go in sequence. But yeah, there's like especially the plurals that like it just has to be done manually. There's no other way. So I don't know, 45,000. If we got like 100 people and everyone did 100, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna contact some schools maybe at some point and see
I
if I can
wanted to
get some
ask you,
help.
Omar.
Needs a
Are
Yeah.
you?
needs a factory.
Yeah, Omar. I wanted to ask you. Are you interested in like developing the your project and your app as like create a business model and get actually like funding and build it as a
And
Yeah,
revenue.
develop it and scale it?
yeah. I have talked to some people at Quran.com. So there's definitely some potential there. But a lot of people say that most of the funding, is not going to come from the United States, usually Arab countries, stuff like that. But
If you're thinking about it, it's like to put a business model and to do it as a startup, I can help you with that.
yeah,
And
for
we
sure.
can definitely get funds and
Mashallah,
navigate.
is here.
No, I mean, inshallah, I mean, and if anybody has any other brands, like I mentioned in the chat, like, I'd like to put up bios, regardless of how much or less you've contributed, like, the community has been an unbelievable inspiration and support for the development of this app. And like I mentioned before, like, the Minders GPT will have
Community is, I would say, I would argue community is a strong word. There's like five of us max.
I mean, yeah, I think that's still a community, right? If Ibrahim could be an ummah all on his own, then I think we can certainly consider ourselves a community. But yeah, the Minders GPT, I think is really going to be cutting edge, and then like I said, there will be a Quran version that will be dedicated, and Minders will switch kind of to the Quran version and Quran, anything related to the Quran will generally be like free nonprofit, and then all the other tools, maybe hadith and other stuff would be no. I think anything related to Islam would be free, but anything outside of that, maybe we can monetize and have like a $1 app on the App Store or something like that. Yeah, so
The
there's some
applications are
uh,
limitless. So
yeah,
I
yeah, I mean that's
for sure. Like what I do is in healthcare digital transformation. That's like my focus as my journey with the business side of things. So I've been working on with a lot of different folks on AI uh, models and ideas, and there is a full community here in the United States. They are really interested in working on different angles of creating like a ethical AI solutions,
yeah,
Islamic solutions, and there's a huge community. So the applications are limitless, and the work you've done and the whole community is amazing. So, and it's at the core of it. But to monetize it, not just in like you can build a whole business model,
yeah.
and
It's becoming a platform, I think,
yeah,
in a
it
large
is.
sense. And not to take too much of a technical tangent, but I think it is relevant because we talk about language, and AI and language models are spreading rapidly, whether you're a fan or not. And a lot of people, I think I mentioned this like an hour ago already, but like it's context engineering, right? Like that's what makes an effective information system, regardless of the domain, right? Whether you're building an app, whether you're raising your children, whether you're just organizing your daily life. Like if you have a good and the way we think is like, it's not like a list, right? It's like a graph, right? That's really what's very unique about this application, is that, we're indexing every single word, from a lexicon and from different texts, word by word, and each word is connected to different things, right? And then, the sky's the limit with, how you can add information and tag things like metaphors, stories. I think when you were mentioning Musa as an era, I was thinking, okay, it would be really cool if there was just a way to be like, okay, in all the stories of the Quran, which are not, clearly delineated, right, in all the stories in the Quran, but if we can tag that, right, all the ayats that have stories in the Quran, which story has Aziz the most often, or whatever root. That sort of thinking, that kind of like modeling, is that's what's going to be, I think, in most demand in almost every organization, but definitely, I mean, and it's nothing new. Like, AI is just making people realize it, right? Like, if you have a good organizational mind, then you're bound to be in a leadership position, because you're helping people name things, right? You're helping people give names to entities and processes and relationships, and that's the focus of my work, my research, my professional career. But it's also the focus of this app, and I think it really gets to the heart of language as well, like communication and how we connect with each other, the stories we tell. I'll just flash really quick to, I think I should update it actually, because I've showed a similar kind of model before, and other people have shown similar models before of the self, right? So the kind of a similar kind of tripartite structure: heart, mind, body, and then when all are connected, you get the soul, right? You get context. Same thing happens in language. You have root and form and context, and when you connect them all together, that's when you get meaning. Okay, beautiful tangents, mashallah. We are blooming like a rose bush. So Aziz, I think we've exhausted, at least for now. Okay, so let's see. I guess there's no point in using the arrows since we keep jumping around. I think I've annoyed the server with too many requests at once. So now what's the next name? I'm trying to remember. Al-Aziz or Al-Qahar, right? Oh, Jabbar, right? Which happened? Al-Jabbar. Okay, so Jabr. Sure, why the filters are not sticking. I need to add a note for that. Sorry for the technical difficulties there, everyone. But Jabr, we said, restoration is kind of the basic idea here. Again, I made the Ataman pair with Jabbar, which is the intensive agent form, tied to Jabara, which is the basic verb form. And yeah, so that's basic sense is to set a bone, right? To restore a bone back to its original position, or heal it. We talked about this in a lot of different dimensions. I think it's one of the interesting names in its beauty, because it's generally taken as a Jalali name, or like a name of might, not a name of like beauty. But Jabara, as being to like force things, right? Be able to like compel things to come together, even a bone that was broken. Some other interesting cognates, or sorry, derivatives of this word, I guess, that come to mind are like, I forgot which here doesn't work, but splint. Splint is one of them, Jabara. So that could be like, a concrete item that we could tie.
Jibara or Jabira. Yeah, that's like
Yeah. Jabr al-Khawatir is, a common phrase that I think it was Yasmin that mentioned it.
mm.
And it means like it's like I guess it's a more colloquial phrase, or no, I don't think it's colloquial actually, maybe classical actually, but one that stuck around and just means like the mending of khawatir. Khawatir, I guess, would be like mending of ties. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the best way to translate it, or the mending of relationships and mending of
But it's yeah, it's a little bit deeper. The
yeah.
translation is not given it just yet.
Yeah, it's new. It's new to the idea is new to me. Like I know I maybe heard it when I was younger, but it was the first time I was really introduced to the phrase. So yeah, please, if you want to share some, but again, the general idea is restoration, right? Bringing things together, back together again, right? And,
Jabr al
and
Khawatir is being like the ultimate level of consideration for others.
mm,
So you when people, for an example, if someone is have an assumption of you helping them with something, Jabr al Khawatir, that you do your best to do something, even if it's not fulfilling their expectations, but you do it in the best way, so their khatir is majbur. They don't feel what's the word for it? Like no disappointment, and like you
yeah,
show them how you are very considerate about it, even if it's beyond your ability. So Jabr al Khawatir is deeper. It's like a very like an ihsan level of being considerate with everyone around you.
yeah, that made me think of like when a bone is restored, right? Like it's a very, it's not like putting, a brick together, right, and laying cement down, right? Like every facet, right? Like it's multi-layered, right? And it has to connect, right?
Mhm.
That's the way the body heals, and that's what the sense that I get too is that like and the way bones heal can be aggressive too, right? Like that's why people I think get bone spurs and like, if you broke a bone, sometimes it's not like a perfectly smooth kind of restoration, right? Like it looks like forceful in a way, right? Like there was like force applied to bring the bones back together, and there's
But
like
at the
maybe
same time, the golden principle is the proximity. That's it. You get them
uh
aligned
being very close.
and
Okay.
in, yeah, in
Yeah.
contact. You know, I'm like my I'm an orthopedic surgeon, so that's
Right,
more
right,
like
right. Of
my thing.
course, yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think Maham had some interesting thoughts on Jabr. I think when we were talking about that too, in terms of like healing as well, right? Like even just the healing process, not just like bone coming together, but like the imagery of just like scar tissue forming or like cells fusing together. That is there,
and it
and
keeps remodeling the whole time.
yeah,
And it's an amazing process because you get them in proximity, but with a perfect alignment, and you keep them in place in that way, and then they build that connection again, and they
yeah,
connect like in a very structural um, way. That's from one side of things, but in the same time, you never get the same strength again. Like the aim and the best thing will be 85% strength of the previous form.
But
yeah.
brother
So
So
that's
Ammar,
like
haven't we heard? Sorry, don't they say that where a bone joins together after being broken, that at that place it's actually stronger than
yeah,
before?
I think I've heard this.
so the with the so the structure itself, like the
Yeah.
new piece of bone,
Mm-hmm.
it can be like, yeah, it's very strong itself, but the full bone, the full structure, the full skeleton system, that's
Mm-hmm.
a weaker point there.
Mm. Okay. So it's not a uniform strength on the full structure of the
It
body.
is, it is, but there's like
So the pressure
there's
point there, is that a pressure point that if there's more weight, it can collapse and break at that same point again?
it's more of like it would be a weaker point for sure, but in the same time, 85% is more than enough to keep that integrity. And it's the beauty of it that the body will compensate with muscles and ligaments in a way. It's
Yeah.
very subtle, but it's that's why like physical therapy is very important because it's
Mm.
about like acknowledging that this point went through like
Stressful
a
state.
yeah, and now it's rebuilt and it's back to the integrity. But just like scientifically, that they keep that on mind that it's not 100%. It will never get back to this 100% like the same.
Okay.
Well, we also were forgetting algebra, right? Algebra, right? So
We
that
should
sense of
we should probably forget it.
I mean,
I
there's a
vote for
lot
forgetting it.
there's a lot of stuff here that like we didn't. I definitely don't think we covered most of it. Like Jibreel is one idea, right? Um, uh, I don't remember talking about that much. But
No, I
yeah,
don't think we did at all. But wait,
yeah,
sorry, can I just add, this isn't scientific or anything. But when I was, I mean, like it's not a huge what's it called? Sample size. Because it's just me, I'm one person. When I was 5 years old, like I broke two of my bones in my right wrist. Alhamdulillah, I'm so good. I've never like I never even think about it. Like it never occurs. Obviously I had to wear a cast and I had to learn to write with my left hand. And it was pretty bad. Like two of my bones like proper broke. Like to the point where my arm was bending around, like it was rotating backwards.
well,
So it was
Wow.
pretty intense. And yeah, and then the doctor just like snapped them back in place and put a cast on it, and then I couldn't use it obviously. But then now, like I'd never even think of this. I only just thought of it because you guys were speaking about it. So sometimes I guess it can be, and I think it like the bone being right, because if you think about it, what remains of the body when everything else is digested by worms and bacteria and organisms that eat every part of our body, the bones remain. So they are the most, I guess, resistant to decay. And so then for them to be brought back together requires a greater power in one way. So they're the strongest, right? They're the strongest part of our body in a way. And so for that for two of them, or four, I guess in my case, to be brought back together it requires an even stronger power. And I like, this word that you said, khawatir, so that the khawatir would be majboor. We use it in Arabic, I mean, in Urdu as well, to say majboor as like someone who's been forced to do
right.
something or
Yes,
someone
I
who's
remember this one.
desperate,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like they didn't have another way. So it's like God as Al Jabbar makes the bones majboor with while acknowledging the fact that, I mean, we need to acknowledge the fact, not God, that these are the strongest parts of our body in a sense. And yet they can be forced. That is the force, or like the overwhelming power of Al Jabbar. And when they are forced, then they become, yeah, like they become, I guess, malleable in a way. And so God is able to make even things that, I think in the Quran there's the term Jabbar and Anid, Kulla Jabbar and Anid, like really stubborn, like, so Jabbar also goes with someone who's really stubborn and it is refusing. Again, I feel like it's a negative connotation of refusing to move, right? Someone who refuses to listen perhaps. And so it takes someone else, someone who's more powerful, someone who has the ability to compel. And then that compelling is sometimes really good for us, because that's what even the name that we need to apply this most to is our nafs, is our nafs al-amara bisu, because it's really difficult for us to to compel it to do certain things that are really good for us. But when we are able to do that jabr on the nafs and say, no, absolutely not, you're not going to be doing this, I'm going to force you. And a lot of this is like a part of, a huge part of the Sufi path is to force the nafs to do things that it hates doing, to do jabr basically. And that is seen as a win. It's not seen as a jalal, like it's not a jalali, it's jamali. It's because the nafs is going to grow more beautiful by doing this, even though it's being forced. So it's to force the person to, for instance, like this sheikh will see, like they would say that if the person looks, they have like, I think we were speaking about humility early on. If they have a lack of humility, then they'll tell them, go sweep the floor, wash the bathroom, which I thought was a very gendered way, because I was like, these are things that I'd be doing at home for free. Like, I mean, without trying to get humble myself. But then I was like, so so then I was like, I don't know, that's a bit strange. But yeah, sometimes they'll say like, go beg, for example, so that you're. But yeah, it looks like it's really detestable to the nafs to do that, right? But then by doing that, just like it's detestable for the bone, it's like refusing to fuse, but it's actually healthy for the bone to fuse, and it's a wholesomeness, it's a return to salam. And so just like that, it's a return to nafs al mutma'inna, but we have to force ourselves, our nafs, our anfus sometimes.
Yeah, I think we should mention, I think where maybe the conversation started initially last time was with the famous pop song, Egyptian pop song by Abdul Halim Hafiz, which is by the same name, right? Because colloquially, I'm sure it's more than just Egyptians, but we use Jabbar to mean like, somebody. It has a negative connotation colloquially most of the time because I guess this is as you usually say, Zanira, not an attribute that we want to manifest, right? But yeah, it's usually used as somebody who's like cold or unmovable, right? Like not lenient, not um,
Jabbar is used in Arabic for tyrants, but
yeah,
that's when at the level of people, a level
yeah,
of creation. But
yeah,
the distinction is it's similar to Al Ghani. Like Al Ghani in that context of creation is something that is enriched with whatever, right? But Al Ghani at the context of the creator, he is the Ghani an kulli shay. Like
yeah.
he is the above everything. So Al Jabbar, when it comes like to creation, yeah, you are being a tyrant against other creations. But when it comes to the creator, Al Jabbar, he's who enforced everything on everything.
Yeah, there's an interesting idea, a note here in Lane. I don't know if anybody noticed this, but under Jabr, which, it relates to algebra, there's a contrary signification, and Lane usually marks this with a hyphen, but this digitized data has this A2 thing. So if you're ever reading Lane, the long hyphen means there's an opposite meaning. So he says it's the opposite of qadara or qadarun, which is, as we know, like predetermination, predestination.
So actually, that's actually like historically there were two groups. That's what it's talking about. I think, are you aware of them? Because I also keep getting them mixed up sometimes because they sound a bit. So there's Qadariya and there's Jabariya, and so one
Um,
of them went like they both went to the extremes. Oh yeah, so Jabariya was an Islamic theological group based on the belief that humans are controlled by predestination without having choice or free will.
right.
And then Qadariya believe that we have the Qadr, but it sounds like, it sounds a bit,
Oh, right. It's the opposite. Yeah. Okay. I see.
yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah.
Qadariya actually believes that humans have the freedom to
Right. Right.
determine
Right.
their actions.
Right. Right.
So it's
Okay.
speaking
Yeah.
about those two. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've heard the free will
Yeah, the free
debate
will
before,
question.
but
Yeah.
I never knew the terminology. Yeah. Oh, so that's a cool note there. Yeah, Jibril, I don't know. I think maybe Jibril is the only lingering thought I've had here was just like, and there's actually several entries here that Lane has. So, there's like uh, Jibril,
Is there
Jibrail,
Jibreel
uh,
and Jibril? Yeah.
yeah, and Jibra. I don't know why these are different. There's no Oh, I think this is Jibrail, right? I think that's another reading of it. Um, and Jabrail or Jabrail. I don't know why this is. I don't see what the difference here is either. But yeah, I don't know. I guess as like the head of the angels, right? He's the angel that kind of connects them all together. Maybe, right? That maybe that's the connection there. I'm not sure.
Also enforces, right?
Yeah.
It's to force
Oh,
something
okay, right,
into
right, right.
shape,
He's
which is
yeah.
what algebra does, right? It forces the two sides of an equation.
Right,
Uh,
right.
yeah. So
So
enforcer.
I was thinking also about like that we need to look deeper into other words that I guess names that rhyme with Jibril, and that's because El at the end can mean God, I think, in Hebrew. So it says the name Gabriel is of Hebrew origin. It means God is my strength, and it can mean, I think it would mean also like the Jabr of El, or like, because in Hebrew they'll say Elohim, which means like Allahumma. So it actually means Ilah or El, anything ending in El. So for example, yeah, it's
It's like your
basically like,
first captain, right? Like the first, the highest ranking official officer, right hand person. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. That's a beautiful thought. Is
so
that
yeah,
that
I
way?
was wondering, also wondering like what's Ismail, because like it's all the El, all the ones with El at the end. I think El means, or El just in general in Hebrew, is one of the
Ismail is
names of
the one
God.
who listens from Samat.
Yeah,
Right. So, but I think it would listens to God. I think
Yeah.
probably, because I'm just gonna look up
I forgot
El
what
meaning,
Ibrahim
because
was. I think Ibra is
Everything.
like slave or like servant of El. I think
Yeah.
that's really cool. I never thought about
right.
Jibril
So
that way.
In Hebrew, El is an ancient Semitic word meaning God or deity.
Yeah, yeah,
So, as in El Elyon, God Most High, that sounds like Al A'la to me. But yeah, it says Proto Semitic root Il. It's
yeah.
found in various Semitic languages. And yeah.
Can we look up Israfil?
Yeah, if we can find all of them, that would be cool. If anyone has a list, I mean, I'll make a note if we don't find it. But
Because it like came to mind is
Mikael.
that I've felt like always like a very subhanallah. It's like the story when the Jews came to Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and they had like three questions and he answered the first and the second and they were like really happy with it and they said like if you answered these three we will believe in you, and he answered the first and second, and I can't remember at the top of my head right now what the question were, but the last one was which angel came with the revelation to, like which angel Allah sent, and he told them Jibril, and they have this hate against Jibril, and they said like if it's Jibril we would never believe in you if it was any other angel. And for me it was like really interesting that all right, maybe like, because before that I thought all revelations Allah entrusted Jibril to reveal to the prophets, but apparently it's not. There's few other angels who did the revelation. So for me,
It-
that was
Oh, that's
Maybe
probably why
because
Allah says, Man kana aduwwan li Jibrila.
yeah. That's
Maybe.
exactly why this ayah came. Like when kana adun by
what
Jibril,
does
and
it
then
mean? What does it mean? Man kana adunu Jibrila.
who who's an enemy, whoever declared themselves as enemy of Jibril, they
Okay.
are an enemy of Allah.
So is it because Moses talked to Allah directly, Kalimullah, as a Kalimullah? Did he not have Jibril with him when he was receiving his revelations?
And I think it's the whole like because with the Jews, they will they were governed by prophets. Like prophets were prophets and kings in the same time, starting from Dawood alayhi salam. So every generation, like whenever the prophet will pass, then a new prophet will be sent. A revelation will come to another prophet from that same community. So they always had a prophet. So I think that process and that revelation to all these prophets, it wasn't Jibril. There was another angel trusted with that task. But I don't know. I need to read more about it, but it was just a fascinating how.
I'll
So
look up.
in your
Yeah,
Semitic,
yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, in the Semitic, since you've added all these Semitic languages and their roots, can you just look up il, just alif, ya, lam, I guess, or
Uh, let's see. So, what do you want to look up? What are the radicals? Alif.
Eel.
alif, lam, yeah, yeah, alif,
Yes.
yam, what alif, ya, lam. Oh my God, please go on. You were saying something.
No, I was just saying that I I think I downloaded a couple of texts about angels because I saw this huge 3 hour lecture on Jibrail alayhi salam, and I was so moved to tears that I wanted to know all about angels. And I haven't had time to read them yet, but I'll look them up and maybe share them here with you guys because I'm sure there's like super interesting information about angels and linguistics because you know, Jibrail, Israfil, their names are very meaningful and um, theologically, semantically interesting.
Yeah, I don't see anything. I don't necessarily know how to use this data. It could be under a different root. Um, I guess we could take a look here. Maybe this
I
is.
think
I
it's
mean,
just okay. So I think it's just alif and lam, just alif and lam, because that's what the Hebrew is looking like to me. So if you can just look up just alif and lam, and
just.
then to the and then look at the because it's like yeah, it's L actually.
Hmm. Okay.
And
Yeah.
so, for instance, it says here the name Ismail means God has heard or heard by God. So that's also really interesting because it's like Sama is like it's the same thing in Arabic, but it's so yeah,
What's
like I don't know.
I'm wondering what's like Mikael. Can you look up that?
Yeah, exactly.
It might be here.
Mhm.
Lane, no, it doesn't look like it. Lane says that Jabr here signifies servant, which is like interesting. So yeah, but I guess it it's still within the sense of like enforcer or first right hand person or highest rank.
So it says, sorry, it says here Hebrew Michael. It's Michael because that's why it's spelled in like Michael in English with a ch because it was actually
Mm.
pronounced Michael, which means who is like God, which is like a
Wow.
rhetorical question, which is like that means that there's no one like God, there's none as, or it can mean gift from God. I doubt that because I don't think Mich has any. Wow, me acting like I actually know Hebrew, I don't, but but yeah, it means who resembles God with a question mark. So saying like it's like a yeah, it's like a rhetorical question.
Hmm.
That means there's no one that resembles God. But again, it's like the il I don't want to say suffix. That's probably the center. It
Yeah,
means God.
yeah. I'll have to do some digging. I don't see any. Oh, there we go. There we go. Took a while. It's under Alu, so I don't know why, but it's under Alif Lam Wow. So yeah, it looks like it goes back to as far as like Gradic with the cuneiform, and even okay here. There's a sense of ability. Let's see if there's any more information. Force, hmm. Force, military force, Gradic. But yeah, il is meaning deity. I mean, in Arabic, yeah, it would like Allah
It's like
falls
ilah.
under. Yeah, like
Yeah, it's like
yeah,
ilah.
Allah. Most scholars say that Allah comes. The root is aliha, right? Or like that. Those are the letters ala, alif, lam, and ha. But it is debated a little bit. But it's interesting here that Lane has it under wow, and then so does the Semitic data. Or actually, alwa here, I guess, is maybe different. I don't know. This is something I'd have to ask my friend about how this intersection happened. It's a really cool note. I haven't like I said, there's about 800 routes that were updated. So I haven't really explored it yet, but this is a cool finding. Nice. Okay. Any other thoughts? Should we?
Okay,
Mm,
so at least Chat GPT or some the Google function just says that Mekail is Me is like Ma, like who. Ka is that like, Ka for like, and Il is Allah. So who is like Allah, as you said, Omar, earlier. But we can actually break it down into Ma Qail,
oh
who
yeah,
is,
it's actually curious. It would be curious to see where, yeah,
and the
how
Ka might
the
have been Kha in Hebrew, which is lookable, searchable, like
e,
as.
yeah. So if anybody knows or has a quick reference for, I mean, it would be curious to see what the Corpus Quran data, where how they mapped the root for Mika'il. I just don't know exactly which in Surah Al-Baqarah Mika'il first appears.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, well, that's a good place to
It's
start.
it's 98. I just looked it up.
Oh, nice. So 98.
And it's also
I
really
can't
interesting
add
because
one
it
in there.
says, yeah, Jibrila wa Mikala, right? So it's like
Oh, okay. So
it's a
not even,
different.
yeah.
But it makes sense because that's what we just looked up is in Alif Lam.
Yeah.
But actually, okay. So there's a bit of like a transcription issue because in the Alif Lam Wow, it is like as far as if I remember the Hebrew letters correctly, then in Hebrew it is written Alif Lam. It is not written Yalam. But in English, when they're transcribing it or like writing it, transliterating it, they're writing it with an E-L.
Hmm.
Like almost like you would write Al, like L, I don't know, whatever, right? A lot of people do that.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of AL. So that's yeah. But it's so interesting. Why would God do that? Like it's like Jibrila wa Mikala because it's an. But I guess this is what did you call? What did you say these are called, Omar? Radical something.
What?
Um,
Is that
like when the
recruit?
vowels. Yeah,
Recruit?
right. That one. Yeah, is
No.
it one
Yeah,
of
in
those?
Arabic we just say illa. Well, which root are you talking about?
Because it's like Jibril
Any,
wa Mikal. So like, why is it Yalam Jibril Il and then Al? When both of them mean God, apparently in Hebrew at least.
And if
um,
there's a correlation to like Jibril, Jibrail, Mikael, and Mikael. It's like two forms for the same.
I think we just saw this in right in lanes somewhere. Like, why was it under Jibrail? I forgot what we were just looking at. Il. Oh, I think we were looking at Il. And there was a note in there about like, I think it's just, I mean, it's Hebrew in origin, right? So the words are how like maybe it was pronounced a little bit differently in Hebrew and how it came to be pronounced the way it is in Arabic. I don't know exactly. I think there's a little bit of an explanation under il in lane. Does that answer your question? Is that what you're asking?
I have
Yeah,
a,
yeah.
yeah, sorry. I have a question about the word Allah itself. The way we write it, we have two lams, right? Alif, lam, and over the second lam, we again have a shad, which means
Yeah.
that in itself is a double L, right? Or a double lam.
Yes.
So that means there are three lams in the word
Yeah.
Allah, correct?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
So,
is.
so how do we parse that? So that cutting you were talking about, Omar, is
So
to show
Allah, I think, is
al.
one of the one of the magnificent things about the word Allah in Arabic,
Yeah,
and a lot of scholars like emphasize on that. That it's a very unique. It
yes,
cannot be broken down.
correct. Like and lahu and who, you just can't, you
So
can't
that's
take
yeah,
Allah
like
out of it. Allah is
building.
in each and every
Yes,
letter,
yes.
Yeah.
each
That's
and every combination.
It
Uh,
may just be like a unique orthography thing. I don't know for sure. It may
even
just
like
be
a
two
lot of
right.
scholars. They would
it,
say it's not driven from ilah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there are some that say
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yep. They say it's
And
not
it's like a strong
derived.
opinion that they said it's not like because
Yeah.
you are the expert on it, but like from ilah, if you want to drive it, it doesn't make like it's not scientific, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's no form. There's no other form that has the form of Allah. Um, but yeah, I mean, it is a unique combination of sounds. It could be, yeah, like I said, an orthography thing. Like, for example, how the first Bismillah doesn't have an alif in it technically, whereas others have like the mini alif. So I'm not sure. I can check into that. It could just still be two alifs because you're really just, the shadda just means there's two letters doubled, but
Yeah.
one of them is just, like second, right? Like it doesn't move, so there's no voweling. I forgot how to get to the
Yeah.
root
It,
from this page. From the Oh, sorry,
And
I'm not.
even like from al-ikhlas, a lot of scholars when it come to the different qira'at because ولم يكن له كفوا أحد,
yeah.
and some qira'at is kufu'an أحد, but
Oh.
they say like kufuan, this is qira'at Hafs. It's it's also very unique. Kufuan as a word
Yeah.
is very unique, and that's why it's used here to emphasize the uniqueness. Like kufuan as a word itself, it means like there has nothing is in its
Comparable.
like. Yeah.
Yeah. Ka is like, right? Ka is as, like. The ka of kufu is that separate word, ka, like Mikael. Ma, ka, il. Ka
Mm.
and fu. So when I'd never heard this pronunciation of kafan, not kufu.
Kufu'an, yeah, some other qira'at, the
Yeah.
kufu'an ahad. And
Wow.
kufu'an, now it's from kafa'a, and it's a
Uh-huh.
different, it gives the same meaning. But
Yeah.
using
Is it
kufu'an
also
is
from
very
like
unique.
Cassie? Like enough, because like it's like an equivalent, right? Like he does not have
Kafi.
any equivalent.
Yes.
And it's something that's used in like marriage. Like you want a kufu. Someone is like, that's an
So that's the
equivalent
other
in certain
qira'a, yeah.
things.
That's kafa'a. And to be a kufu'an for something, to be like an,
Substitute for, stand in
no,
for something.
no, to be like compatible with something, or to be like, that's
Okay.
from kafa'a.
Okay.
It has like a larger meaning,
Mm-hmm.
but like kafa'a also can be as a noun, it's qualification. Like you have the qualification, like you meet the qualification for something. And from the ayah, ليس له كفوا أحد. So it
Mm-hmm.
gives the same meaning. Nothing will be near to
Mm-hmm.
Allah. But kufuan without the kufuan,
Mm-hmm.
that's like a very unique word
Mm.
because it has a different meaning. It's the same meaning, but the form itself. It cannot. It's just like Allah cannot drive it from roots,
Anything
and
else?
it's a
Mm.
yeah.
Because that would semantically is impossible. He's so unique. He is the creator, so he cannot have a root because he is it.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody read some of the last messages I sent last night, but I was thinking about what Yasmin was saying about the colors, and I mean, it's something that we talked about a couple of times about how the vowels relate to high, mid, and low frequencies, and that transposes to mind, body. So basically, what I was saying in the chat was like you can theoretically map all the frequencies to like a color map, and if we say that, like, I mean, we're not really saying it. This is basically in the math, right? Excuse me. Green is the mid range, right? And that's attributed to alif, right, or the a sound, and then high frequency is ultraviolet, purple, blue, uh, that kind of thing, and then low is red. So really, alif and lam are very close, I think, phonetically speaking, and they would have a similar frequency range. So Allah might be like if you color code it, it would be green. It would just be all green, all in the mid range, right? Is the idea? Because the hat also would also be in the mid range. So it's kind of a strange idea, but I think if I can get some accurate numbers. The thing is with consonants, it's not the same as like vowels. Vowels are like they're continuous. They're not a lot happening, so they have more consistent frequency ranges. Whereas like consonants, there's different things happening in the movement and the articulation of the sound. So you can't get the same exact. You can't the mapping isn't going to be as clean and one to one as with the vowels. Okay, Jabbar, exhausted for now, I think. And then, okay, so next would be Al-Khaliq, I think. Right, is that right? Or sorry, no, Al-Mutakabbir. So with the fa'al form, it's another uh, intensive agent form besides fa'al and besides mufa'il. This is mutafa'il, so the extra ta. We talked, I think, a little bit about the extra ta. Tafa'ul in general, I think it adds like a reflexive layer, so it's kind of like the thing happening to itself is kind of like passive in a sense. So maybe the idea with mutakabbir really, with the meme adding like the instrumental or the causal aspect, it's kind of like the kibr as we have mentioned, right? Or the general idea here is kabura, the etamin here that we selected is for something to grow large or big. So there's a form of al-mutakabbir or al-mutafa'il or tafa'ul. It kind of has the sense of like, without even trying, right? Without me even making the effort. That's kind of the sense that I get from this form. But that's kind of the idea of like reflexivity, right, in language, and passiveness, right? When you say something, when you say like it broke, right, or when the news media says Palestinians died instead of were killed, right? It's that passive voice. It has a different it highlights a different aspect of reality, and I think that's kind of the sense that we get here with mutakabbir. Is like even without Allah trying, He is the largest, the most big, the most worthy of lauding Himself and making Himself large.
Also, that there is with passive, what happens is that the usual doer, the subject, is missing. So there's
Yes,
no one who makes Allah mutakabbir.
right.
He is
Yes,
inherently, it resides in him. He is like Allahumma anta salam. He is peace. No one imbues him with peace. He is. It originates with him. So I think in this sense too, kibr, this bigness, is him. It resides in him. It comes from him. It's not given to him.
yeah. Yeah, but that's a beautiful point about the morphology. Yeah. Also, you see here, so this is one of the roots that we have Proto-Semitic data for, and this is a moment, I think, where the four foundational frames, gets a little bit tested, because maybe increase and decrease is a separate frame, right? You can kind of tie it to cutting, union, separation. You can kind of tie it to expansion, contraction. You can kind of tie it to loss and gain, but maybe you prefer increase, decrease as a fundamental binary than over the others. So that would be maybe another option to add there. Kibr, also, as we mentioned, is this is one of those names that we don't want to manifest, right? We don't want to make ourselves bigger than we are. Kibr is one of the basic nouns here that it means that is often translated as arrogance. Although here, for some reason, the gloss is spittle, which is curious. But I think that's just an error. Yeah. So greatness, but it also doesn't always have negative connotations, right? Like we say, Sheikh al Akbar, and it seems like here it's used in positive connotations sometimes. Uh,
And I think for these Jalali names, we approach it from the aks, from the reflection of oppositeness. So we approach Al Mutakabbir as with inkasar, with ajizi, with with
Yes.
uds, with humility, with modesty, with utmost humility. The higher he is, the lower we fall.
yeah, and maybe just for the sake of it, because I remembered, I don't know what, I think it was something Ammar was saying. Um, Forget exactly. Maybe you'll remember. So it's just a random story that I heard about um, when I was listening to lectures about al-Khaf, and it's that the Prophet ﷺ, he had sorry, random story time. He had a camel, or a she camel, I think, that was like super fast. Like no one could beat her, right? And I think her name was Adba or Ghadba. I forget exactly, something like that. I'll have to find it, the video, and share it later if anyone's interested. And yeah, it would always win in a race. But one day, like I guess a traveler or a man from out of town came with.
Al-Qaswa. Just wanted to. The name Al-Qaswa.
Oh, that's the very fast one, because I think he had more than one, but I don't know. So anyway, the man comes with a camel, and the camel is a little bit smaller, and she beats him in a race. Right, his camel beats the Prophet's camel, and so the Sahaba, became sad, right? That the Prophet's, she camel, who was undefeated up until now, um, was beaten by this, random person that came with his, with his camel. And so I forget the exact response of the Prophet ﷺ, but it was that, like, the sense of, like, everything has its time. Everything has a peak, and everything has to, you know, or as we say in English, actually, I don't know. There is an English phrase that I think
Every
captures
dog
that.
has his day, or
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. But also, like, and then of course in the Quran we have وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ, right? And above everyone with knowledge is somebody with more knowledge. So, there's that sense too. But yeah, I just thought that was a random story. I forgot exactly what Ammar said that reminded me of that. But yeah, in the sense of, I think also because, when we were talking about this, we were talking about everybody has a little bit of, like, self-inflation, right? I think that's a note I just saw in one of these, under kibr, right? As, like, there's a phrase in the Quran, I think, related to the ifk story of Aisha, right? And the phrasing is tawalla kibrahu, right? Which I guess would be literally translated as, like, he followed, or validated or confirmed his own, like, arrogance, right? Or his own, like, bigness, right? Coming out of himself. So yeah, of course, I guess this is an important concept to think about, right? Because we don't want to overestimate ourselves. We don't want to make ourselves bigger than we are. Um, and this name, I think, is a very good reminder of that. But also just the root and the ideas here.
the word grind from the same root is also really interesting, right? Because with the kibriya, the mutakabbir, the only reaction is to be ground to dust, to
Yeah,
pieces.
I was looking at some of these, but yeah, I mean, as always with these glosses are something else that needs to be validated, because sometimes they don't make sense. Like spittle, like that's a mistake. So I don't know if grind is an actual signification here, or it's just you know uh, a mistake in the. But there was something else about, like, what is this? Kabaratu fakabaratu, and this is translated as coarse flour. It seems like a complete mistake. Um, Yeah, so kabara here with the fa'ala form, the reciprocal form. The idea here is, like, um, to get into an argument, or it involves somebody else in your self-inflation, right? because naturally then you're going to grind. Okay, I guess maybe that's why the LLM came up with the idea of grinding.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, also grubbing sound. I don't know how these glosses came to be.
But can we check
From the grind.
grind? What is it? Like
It's a mistake in the gloss. There's nothing in lane that had. I mean, as far as I can tell here. I mean, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but um, I guess it somehow got the idea of like friction. But yeah, apologies for that. You know, the English glosses are always going to be um, a bit of a gamble until they get manually validated. When I find a body of students, inshallah, to help me validate my 50,000 words. But yeah, interesting, right? Because like I don't know that I guess maybe the word primed my mind, but like yeah, I think that's kind of an easy way to sum up all relational conflicts, right? Is that usually they only happen because there's an overestimation of, and maybe even underestimation. Maybe that's, and I think we mentioned this as well. I think now that I'm remembering that, like kibr doesn't necessarily have to be like somebody who's like ostentatious and loud and showing his chest or whatever it is. Often those people like with themselves are actually very quiet and very hard on themselves. And that sort of like making yourself smaller, right? Or not knowing your self-worth or not knowing your value. That's also a kind of kibr, a kind of arrogance, right? Because you don't know your ultimate truth. Only Allah knows that. So you can't even pass judgment on yourself in an absolute way, never mind others. Cool. Any other thoughts here on this is interesting. There's so actually the Semitic the Proto-Semitic words that we have, those glosses would actually be safe because those are actually manually so interesting. So this is Mannaic or something. I don't know anything about that language. It shouldn't all have like general time periods, I think, or attestations, and maybe some other. So there's other ways to determine, yeah, like I mentioned, the chronology or potential chronology. So I'd be curious to see how old this idea is of like government coming from the idea of increase in greatness. Okay, khair inshallah. Shall we proceed? Okay, so takabbur, and now we get to the trio of al-Khaliq, al-Bari, al-Musawwir. So we kind of grouped them a little bit together. Just that they all kind of describe like the physical kind of aspect of reality, right? And I always think of Maham's note about how, like, I don't know, like the crunch of like a croissant for some reason when we were talking about this. I think she mentioned it in the chat. And again, here we have the Eteman pairs being tied to. Actually, this is a noun. Actually, I don't know why it has a dhamma at the end or a vowel when it should have tanween. But the base ideas of this root are something becoming smooth, and either becoming smooth through wearing over time, through being worn out, or becoming smooth or becoming worn out just from use, right? So like I think it's used for a garment, but it can also be used for like a rock, right? Like so like over time a rock being eroded and becoming smooth. So you see like there's a very physical dimension of this idea of creator here and creation, and there's lots of beautiful derivatives here that we can talk about. My favorite is the dua. Allahumma ahsin khuluqi kama ahsanta khalqi. So, oh Allah, make my khuluq, make my characteristic, my character perfect the way you made my khalq, my creation, my body, my physicality, the way you made that perfect. So that's kind of tied here as well. No Proto-Semitic here, but there's some English glosses if anything comes to anybody's mind. Khulqani. Interesting. Never saw this before. A seller of old and worn-out clothes. Wow. Interesting form. Never seen that before.
It's
Khulqan.
just like there is a similar in Sudanese, but in Egyptian dialogue, with the Saidi dialogue, khilgan, khalagat, or like clothes.
Khalagat. Oh, I never heard that before.
Yeah, so it's a very like Saidi dialogue.
Interesting. I'll have to ask.
Khalagat, which it
Yeah.
means like the clothes.
Cool. I'm gonna have to ask my mom about that. She's always my first source for Egyptian texts.
Yeah.
Perfumed him. That one is interesting.
Oh, khaluq. Yeah. Let's see. A certain species of perfume, thick yellow, composed of saffron and other things, redness yellow, forbidden for men because it's a fiqh thing. Interesting.
And it looks like the word saffron comes from safar, right? Yellow?
Oh yeah, I think I mentioned this last week that's a
Oh,
very controversial root that it has lots
is
of
it?
different, has very wide range of meanings.
Zafran, yeah, or zafran, yeah.
Yeah, it could be the za sound instead. Yeah, yeah, that's yeah. It's interesting to think about what the first sounds, that these people or Proto-Semitic or Proto people or first humans, the kind of sounds that they made. They must have had a smaller inventory of sounds. Fair. So any other thoughts here? There's lots of cognates, but I think that's so I think what we talked about when we talked about the three al-Khaliq, al-Bari, al-Musawwir, right? Like three levels of I kind of want to review the notes there because that was one of the coolest notes, I think. I don't know which one it was. It was Khaliq or Bari or maybe Musawwir, like summed everything up together, but like Khaliq maybe being like the most like physical, relating to like everything in creation, like at the atomic level, at the cellular level, and then Bari being like often translated as the evolver, right? That's when like physical creation starts to like process starts to happen, right? Like some kind of um, change is happening or growth or evolution or however you want to think of it. And then musawwir is like the fashioner, right? The last kind of like the final touches you can kind of say for this trio of names, which some scholars even consider as one name altogether, like Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim.
I'm against like combining them.
Yeah, the same. No,
It's like
yeah,
subhanallah.
yeah,
Allah like described each one separately, so
yeah.
it's just being lazy putting it all together. But in the same time, like the three dimensions, yeah, I love that. I love how like the connection, of course. My understanding is al khaliq is like creating something from nothing. So from
Right,
nothing to
right.
something that's
Yeah,
khalq.
yeah.
And al bari, and I know you didn't like that. If I remember from that session, the metaphor I used, like bara shay or baraya, for like
Oh, yeah, to sharpen, right?
pencil sharpener. Like that's one of the use that now. This is like a very watered down, but
No, I think that's I think I remember we had a different like which I don't remember exactly where we kind of differed a little bit, but that's an interesting way of thinking of like that middle layer, right? Between like if Hulk is the most base, right, coming from nothing, right, like atomic
Yes.
or how the smallest level you can imagine. And taswir sura, right? That's like the most superficial layer or the most outward layer. How you think of like butter, like I think of butter as like process, right? But like the idea of
Yeah.
sharpening is
Yeah.
actually that's very that's like you cannot make something sharp without a process, right? Like that's a very kind of really um yeah. No, I'm sorry if I dismissed that.
No,
Sometimes
no, no, no.
like you guys
Not at all.
but I should say that
We
all
got
the times.
technical about what's the root of bari. Is it
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
biraya? It's not like
Right, right,
from
right.
the same root,
Yeah,
and
but
you
no,
are the expert, so I was like, all right, no problem. But
no, no, not at all. Yeah, I think it would be like I think most scholars would say it's probably a different route, but in my research and in a lot of our discussions, we've talked about how like uh, you know, roots that partial roots seem to be kind of like a subroot, right? So like ba and ra all seem to be kind of related. All roots that have those sounds seem to be kind of related in some way. And
Mm.
I really like the idea of sharpening as process, right? That's a really kind of really really cool way of like describing that middle layer, as an edge. Yeah,
And
before.
subhanallah, how I think about it, like with the khalq, al khalq is the foundation of everything in a way that everything is created, right? So al khaliq, like it's not like al khaliq created the fundamental level of things, and then al bari created on top of that another creation. It's more of optimizing the creation, and that's a creation itself, but it's not adding new creation to the
Oh,
creation.
right. Yeah, yeah,
It's like the idea of evolving,
yeah, yeah.
and that's the khalq itself, but it's like
The
it's
tadrij, right? It's like or I think Ahmad is another like synonym, right? Of like development, right? The idea of like this like development in stages,
yeah.
or
And musawwir is like beautifying it, like having it in harmony with all the different things like in a beautiful way. So and even some scholars they add al-badi'a as a fourth dimension to that process.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
they have like a strong correlation to that, like
yeah,
al-musawwir and then al-badi'a, which
yeah.
is
I think we talked about Badia a little bit too. It's later, I think, in the list, but ibda, like the sense of bada, right? It has the sense of like innovation, right? Like coming up with something new. And I think there's also the sense of like speed, right? Like because usually when inspiration strikes or when an idea strikes, that happens suddenly, right? It's like a very quick kind of thing. So those senses, I think I remember we mentioned a little bit as well. I don't know if it was these sessions on خالق بارئ مصور, but it did come up at some point.
yeah.
I was also thinking of the phrase in the Quran, طبقا على طبق, right? I forget the ayah, but like I think Allah describes like either the creation of mankind or um, the journey of mankind is like levels upon levels, right? And like layers upon layers.
Yeah.
So I think let's see if I put
Even like with the sama, badi'u samawati wal ard, like that, and
yeah,
also
because
like a samawat, tibaqa, and yeah,
yeah. Badi'a samawati wal ard, yeah, it's a beautiful phrase. It kind of gives me the sense of like how the earth is never, well, at least the sky. Maybe the earth is a little bit more constant, but the sky is constantly like it's never static. It's always dynamic, right? Always changing, always moving,
I love the narrative that al ard it's all
vibrating.
the planets. It's not
Oh,
just
right, yeah,
Earth. It's
yes, yes,
samawat and ard. The ard is
all the
every
time.
constellation out there.
Yeah,
So it's very dynamic too. Like
I
all the
think
planets and
I think that's the technical definition of sama, right? It's not just the sky that you see above you, but it's everything above the ground. So that's why when we say Allah fi sama, right? Like he's also like, within the spaces between us, right? Like, uh,
And that's
in
what get us like to the aqidah thing, right? We talked about last halaqa. It's when I was like talking about the sama, because the Ash'ari and Maturidiyya, they strongly against using that wording sama, because Allah cannot be like limited by space or time, or the idea itself.
yeah, yeah.
Could we think of Khalik as like, bringing something out of nothing? So the prototype of insan, and Bari as the one who instantiates from the prototype.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the same idea. Another word I keep thinking of is like It's like iterating.
Iteration, yeah,
Yeah, iteration. Right.
yeah.
I forget what iterate comes from. It's probably
It's like the
compound.
same idea, like with the earth. We know, like all the living things, all organic things, share 99% of their DNA, right? Like
Exactly.
the genetic makeup, and
But
that's
even
that's
just
like a
but even just physical matter, right? Like we're made up of atoms, right? Like just like
yes,
the computer, the
Carbon.
table, yeah,
everything, yeah,
carbon, yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, so some proto-Semitic here, but not much. Doesn't really inform us much here. Just same idea of creating. Bara'a. Also, yeah, I guess, yeah. So now that we moved on to Bara'a, we can see here that like here I didn't highlight the etamin, right? So I didn't highlight. I didn't get to that yet. So I'll make a note here to do that. But I think we agreed that one of the key concepts here also is, and I'm curious how you guys tie this to process, right? Or like iterating and instantiating in levels and layers, is innocence, right? Bari, right? That's the one of the main ideas of the surut is innocence. I guess for me, like it's the clean slate, right? Like after you have the base khalq or whatever, and you iterate, like there's at the
You purify it from everything else, not it.
mm, right,
Um,
yeah,
and I think
but
that's why the scholars like the bara al-shay, and they tie it to even the pencil sharpening, because it's like defining the functionality of it. It's giving it definition.
yeah,
Pencil sharpening is actually really, really spiritual, right? It's like
yeah,
making oneself into a kalam
Yeah.
to write.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
about the perfect sharpening, because if
Yeah,
you sharp it too sharp, it will break. If it's too
exactly.
dull, it will never give you that perfect crisp like line. So it's
Line.
about sharpening it to a
Just enough.
optimal, yeah,
Yeah.
and then keep doing that. And that's that continuous sharpening with the functionality. And in like medicine, I can see it in everything, that subhanallah, how perfect the body function, and how everything is interacting to each other, and everything is optimized to do a very specific functionality. And that's like a bad, in a way that it's a continuous thing. It's like a method from Allah, a continuous method of being in that shape, being in that functionality, being in that
Yeah,
very specific.
to turn on the genetic component that tells each cell that it's an elbow cell, or is it going to be a liver cell with the exact same DNA. The
Yeah,
cells
subhanallah.
differentiate and
Hmm.
manifest.
Yeah, subhanallah. And
And the fact,
everything in the world in that way.
yeah, and to even that human beings can figure out at this point how to create a liver cell from a elbow cell, that too is like crazy amazing, right? With the stem
Yeah,
cells, all this whole
subhanallah. Yeah.
thing about technology that they can actually do it now.
Yeah,
We are
subhanallah. It's
kind of understanding the bari ta'ala, right? We are understanding a teeny bit, teeny. We can never obviously understand him, but a little glimpse of what's in us, what's in his
I
creation.
you reminded me that like there was another layer or another level that we mentioned, right? خلق وذرأ وبرأ. So ذرأ is not
mm,
that is not a name, but like there's a mid layer there too. So I think in 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 the same vein as what you were just saying, uh, uh, um,
and can we
there's
look up?
infinite layers.
Yeah. Can we look up Dara? Because my understanding of Dara is like locating something, putting it in something, implanting something in somewhere.
Yeah,
وَدَرَأَكُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ
yeah,
قُلْ
yeah.
هُوَ
It's
الَّذِي
also
ذَرَأَكُمْ فِي
create.
الْأَرْضِ وَإِلَيْهِ تُحْشَرُونَ.
Oh, that's interesting. Whiteness is one of the significations, maybe, or is this a bad gloss? Let's see. Oh no, yeah, whiteness, hoariness, and I forget what hoariness means. Is that referring to hair? Uh, or what is? I forget what hoariness
Holiness.
means. But yeah, whiteness. That's interesting.
Where there are little hair. So the forehead, right at the hairline, it's not the full
Uh,
hair, right?
I
There are
see.
smaller
Or
hairs,
thinness,
baby
thinness.
hair,
I think
The
that's what
baby
hor.
hair.
baby hair. Yep.
I think hoariness means thinness. I think that's the meaning, right?
Okay.
Um, but oh no, it means white or gray. Okay, it's the same thing. Okay. Yeah, it means white or gray. So like yeah, get like older and then become gray. Interesting.
So
Um,
zarra is not a particle, or that's
so
spelled separately.
zarra, yeah, that's with the za.
Oh,
So
okay. It's not with the
No,
dharra,
the.
no, no. It's
No,
الذرة.
it's with
The
this.
same.
It's with the. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, in Urdu we pronounce it zara, so I apologize.
oh,
But
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, yeah.
yeah. No,
Dara means autumn. Yeah.
particle, right?
مثقال الذرة. Right. So
Dara
dharra
is
is.
an autumn. Yeah.
I
Or
thought it was
the
the
smallest
mustard
thing
seed.
of
The mustard, yeah,
anything.
the mustard seed. Yeah, yeah. I think it's a different root. Well, in my opinion, same subroot, right? But it's probably under dharwa. Yeah, dharwa. So different root, technically, according to classical definitions, I guess. Uh,
Dust. That's it.
This one,
Dust is
Dara.
also, yeah, dust is also particle. So it's the that smallest little particle
mm,
that you see
yeah,
sometimes floating in the sunlight or light.
yeah,
That's a
Oh,
Dara. Yes.
that's a
yeah,
dhurra,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And then also you get dhurriya, which is offspring,
Yeah.
right? And uh, yeah. So okay. So that makes the layering even more clear, right? So like khalq, creation from nothing, and dhar, like like just starting to see particles, right? Small little like formations, right? And then bar, right? Like sharpening, right? And then taswir, subhanallah. Yeah. So taswir. So I guess we should mention also like the khaliq and bari, same form, same general agent doer form, noun form, but musawwir is the intensive causative or instrumental form with that meme in the front there.
Mm.
And uh, I always find it interesting when we have one form and you don't have the other because there is no like sawir, right? There is no noun form, which could just be a phonological thing. Um, because Sara is also here as I guess it means to and this may be a good candidate for like the etamin or the heart of the meaning here because um, the base meaning here is to extend your neck forward. So
Mm.
Sara means to extend your neck, and then Surah, as we know, is the image. Um, so al musawwir is often translated as the fashioner, or as we're saying here, like maybe the one of the most final or external layers of creation. Styling or finding final touches, you can say.
So this neck would also then correspond to the trumpet, right? Because it also means the trumpet, the trumpet of the day of judgment. The sor is also the same sor.
Sur, sur, yeah.
So
I think that's also going to be classified under a different root. Um, I don't know. I don't see it here, right? So, but that's a good question.
I think we did it in Fusus at one point, Fusus al Hikam, that it is actually the same root.
Oh wait, no, it is here. Horn. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so that's good. Yeah, we didn't talk about this at all last time, I think.
yeah.
Um, wow. Okay, so that has the aspect kind of to me of like sound, almost being uh related to like that, that most outward layer, right? Because like if everything has like a, fundamental layers or base layers and base vibrations, ultimately that gets
So
uh,
I think if I remember it correctly from our Fusus class, it was actually a really fabulously interesting thing about the shape of the cosmos as presented by Sheikh Ibn al-Arabi as a trumpet shaped.
Mm.
say that one more time,
The
sorry.
animal, sorry,
Say that one more time, sorry.
the shape of the cosmos, like string theory.
Ah,
Is it
okay.
like a donut? Is it like a bagel? Whatever. And according to a hypothesis or maybe a kashf by Ibn al-Arabi, that it is like a trumpet, like a funnel. So the sound that we talk about, like, when you, Omar, you just said the sound, the musicality, that comes from the funneling of sound or energy down a trumpet. And then with the idea we have of Israfil blowing down the sur and the day, and the sound is what will kill us, will be announcement of that end of time, could also be him blowing down the cosmos itself, because it
Mm.
is shaped like a trumpet. And the realms of the cosmos, from Alamul Ijsam, the earthly corporeal reality, this world, things that we see and touch, to Alamul Khayal, and then up to Alamul Arwah, the world of the spirits. And so, and the Alamul Khayal could also be Alamul Tasawwur, imagination, right? So it
Yeah,
has to go through imagination to become a corporeal reality, which is our lowest realm.
I
So
love
the
that.
soul is actually really vitally connected to um, to the corporeal reality we see.
Yeah, I think this is even like kind of hinted at here in Lane,
Yeah,
because you see here, he translates "Yoma yunfakhu fi sur"
yeah,
as uh, I mean, it's an interesting note. Like one of these guys at Kelbi, I don't know who a lot of these people are, says I don't know what asur is, right? Like I guess the comment being that like it's a strange idea that it means horn,
yeah.
because it kind of stands out with the rest of these ideas here.
Uh-huh.
And then there's one. So then one person says, uh, when the soul shall be blown into the forms of the dead. Right, so like he's translating the idea of the horn as literally the souls moving back into their dead bodies. I think that's how I'm reading it, but
Mm-hmm.
this is I guess disputed, as the last note that Lane has here is that it's on the it was AO that who said this. That's the author. I don't know who this is. I'll add
Mm-hmm.
more notes for that. But then somebody says that this is wrong, right? So you know,
Mm.
interesting.
Because
I've
I
always
The second one
I
is
think
supposed to
it's,
bring us alive, right?
yeah. So there's the
Amar, the
first
second
one
one.
and the
Yeah,
second one.
and the third one.
yeah.
Is
Yes.
Yeah. But
so the
I've always had this kind of, I mean,
and
we're,
it
we're
could be a curly horn as well, like not just a regular, like we are
Yeah.
thinking of a brass horn, the musical instrument, which just one curve going up as a cone. But if we had as a curly, like the horn of an animal, that could be closer to what our ancestors were saying there.
doesn't
Do
And
that
you
give
look
even
at
the
that?
ancient horns, they are shaped that way because they just use materials from like the
Actual
environment
animal.
around them and
Yes,
actual
exactly.
animal
Actual
forms, and
animal horse,
it's
right?
curved
And,
and it's
and, and then
spiral.
doesn't that result
Exactly.
in like a range of frequencies too? Because it's not just like one. It's not like
Mm.
I don't know. I think I've heard like in movies only like what that kind of horn sounds like when someone blows into it, but it seems to go from
We
like
should do a little bit
low
of
to high
research.
or something.
Yeah.
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 And then that would then also fulfill that other image we have of say the Quran, or in life, or in going through the stations, the manazils of wilaya, etc., of going in spirals,
Yeah.
right? That even when we hit on the same point, we're never really hitting the same point, we're
It's a
high.
full circle. Yeah.
It's a full circle, but it's higher
But in a higher, yeah, and it's a spiral
elevation. So
going
that would be a
upwards.
spiral going up. And there's nothing to say that the cosmos is not shaped like that, because the jury is out on what the actual shape of the cosmos is like, right?
Yeah, I think the latest I heard was that we thought it was expanding, but it's actually contracting. It's actually probably doing both, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah. Depends on where you are.
right, right.
And
Um,
even with the suns, like scientifically, we know that now the suns are moving in a spiral movement.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
not only, yeah, the suns are not like they moving forward on a spiral movement, and everything is rotating around them,
yeah.
and
As
that just add
revolving
layers
and
and layers of
moving.
dimensions.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
taswir.
Sor is the Taswir al Musawwar is um,
The other
yeah.
thought that I had when I've always had this, but I was reminded as you guys were talking, is that like, you know, it, and I think we'll get to this later too when we talk about the Quran and al-Khaf. But it's the idea again, like I think I mentioned before, about like how we have energy that affects us, like wings, maybe, right? Like maybe we do have wings, right? That we can't perceive or can't see, like, but we affect each other in this way, with our energy. And I imagine sometimes in a silly way, right? Like, this vibration that we all have, that we all share and affect each other all with. Imagine, like, instead of talking to each other the way we normally talk, imagine if human life was like we all sang to each other, right? Everyone had their own, like, vibrato, their own, like, tonal quality, their own style, or whatever it is. I feel like that's actually probably what's happening in some metaphysical, astral level. And then this idea, excuse me, of soul really kind of cements that for me a little bit. Or
Yeah, tie it all
yeah,
together. It's makes,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. No, that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I mean, like I mentioned in the chat, and like I have in this document here, about, I called it like a normalization of everything is just vibration anyway, right? So like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sounds, colors, physical matter, it's all just
Light itself,
vibrations.
light
It's
and sound, right? It's just energy.
right, yeah, exactly. Subhanallah.
Right, subhanallah. الخالق
So
البارئ
wait, so I
المصور.
was just thinking, sorry, I just had to step out for a bit, but what you just said about everything is energy. So this is what, oh, sorry, vibration, is, and the sounds are vibration. That is exactly how I see like the recitation or the dhikr of the names as a portal to a specific vibration. So like
Mm.
saying Ya Salam is like accessing the vibration of peace,
Yeah,
and saying any other name is accessing that vibration, that almost like that realm, like it's a, I'm not the realm, yeah, the realm, like it exists throughout the realm really, but it's like the door to that realm. That word itself is the door to that reality. And in Sufi path of knowledge, we're speaking about the names of the names. So the way that I understood it, I'm not sure that that's the only way or the right way, but the way that I understood it is because he says basically, or I mean, for those who haven't attended, he says that the names of Allah that we know, right? For example, Al-Khafid, let's say, it's not actually a name, but it's the name of the name. So the way that I understood it is that it is a portal to the reality.
Mm.
So there's a reality of the Khafid, which we're not actually going to be able to like touch necessarily. But the word khafid or the name khafid or salam or anything, that is the name of that reality. That means it's the portal to that reality. So it's like an not interface, but like yeah, it's like a door. Really, portal is really the best non-metaphor that we can give.
Yeah, name of names is a powerful idea. I think it's a bit unfortunate. I think that's Chitik's terminology, right? Because I feel like name of names is confusing, but I feel like it's like names of that which cannot be named is more accurate. And that's everything, right? Because like language is not ever going to capture reality completely. The names of Allah are never going to capture Allah completely. Yeah, so I think that's what Chitik is kind of alluding to. That the names of the names are just like, yeah, this is as far as we can go, right? This is the edge of perception of the mind of human understanding, and the names are the doors, that will only give us like will only let us peek at that, that other world, that astral layer, that the metaphysical, unseen, unspoken layer.
So can this is like my theory, but it's probably true, but I haven't heard anyone else speak of it. But when I started like understanding energy and names specifically better, I realized something about the spirits, the names of the prophets, alayhimus salam, is that the name of anything is actually a portal to that thing or to that person. So I realized, I'm saying this again, it's my theory, is that when like the spirits of certain beings, like prophets, for instance, like high, really, what? Yeah, they are the highest, like most, what's it called? Ascended beings. They're, it's like a portal to that reality, to them, basically, to their person, right? So that's why, linking back to salam, that's why when we say Muhammad, for example, we're supposed to say alayhi salatu wassalam. But why? When do you say that? When you say Musa, we're supposed to say alayhi salam. When do you say salam to someone? When they're with you, right? Like we're supposed to say salam to someone when we meet them, and or when we're speaking to them. But so for me, that like kind of hints at the reality. I believe that's the reality, that when we say their name, we actually come in touch with their spirits and we access their spirit. That's why we're doing the basic, like bare minimum Muslim requirement, which is to say salam.
So
Yeah.
in magic, we that's why they want the full name, right?
In what?
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, in magic. So one of the things that my energy healing teacher told me
Oh,
is
Or in
that
praying for
people
someone
cannot do.
else, people want to
Yeah,
know the full name so that
that
they can pray with the full name, the
yeah.
real.
So she told me that no one can do black magic on you unless they know like your full name. But specifically in black magic, for some reason, I don't know why, I haven't figured that out yet, but they use the mother's name. So they wouldn't say like bint the father, but they would say bint fulan bint with the mother's name.
Yeah. And
That's
that's
that's what
even
we've heard for Jannat as well, right? For the end of the day of judgment,
Yawm al-Qiyamah, yeah.
Yawm al-Qiyamah,
You
because
will be
many
called by, yeah.
people would not know their father's name, Zanira. The mother is the only solid, documented evidence of your parent.
oh wow, yeah.
And even ancient kingdoms, like in Africa, with the first kingdoms in history, they passed down the by the mothers, like the grandson of a king, a son of his daughter would be the next king,
Mm,
and that was like the system.
mm.
Son of his daughter. Oh, okay. But and this is African. It's because I was just reminded of like something I learned a few years ago that I never really got accustomed to because I grew up in America. But in Egyptians and maybe other cultures, it's like very taboo to tell somebody or ask somebody their mother's name. Right?
That's
Like,
only in the Gulf, and
uh,
Said also in Egypt. It's
yeah,
an like a tribal thing,
yeah,
like
That's
yeah,
probably that Ghira thing with
yeah, yeah.
Ministry of, what was that called? Minister of Interior Affairs.
What's that?
Bills. I feel like we had this conversation about where the person's like trying to dodge saying his wife's name. So he says Minister of Interior Affairs.
I'm vaguely remembering this reference, but
So
yeah.
basically, for example, if like Khaliji, right? Like if a man, let's say Khaliji Qatari man, like he's outside with his friends, and let's say his sister or his mother or anybody, any female family member calls, and then people will be like, "Oh, who is that?" Like if his male friends are like, "Who is that?" He'll say Bates. Not even Ahl al Bates, but
Mm,
Bates. So that was like really, I found that really objectifying. I was like, what? But yeah, it's like, he'll just like, there's no mentioning the name of the women folk
yeah.
for data reasons, I guess. But yeah, so I just looked it up, and it's actually the hadith about being called by the mother's name are fabricated and will be called by their own names
Oh,
and
how
their father's
sad.
names based
That's
on the
very sad.
Sahih Hadith and Bukhari. But it's so interesting. I don't know why. I don't know why it is that the black magic witches been eating the mother's name. I don't know what it is. And because it's even part of the thing where it's like when someone goes to get ruqya, they need to check that the person who's doing ruqya, because apparently this is common practice, especially in Morocco and certain specific places, to combat black magic with reverse black magic. Um, and apparently
Mm.
like people do, but yeah, so one of the ways to know that the person that you're getting healing from is legit is knowing that they will not ask you for your mother's name, because
Ooh.
real raqi is not going to ask you for that. They don't need that. But I don't know why the witches need the mother's name.
So
I
I'm
don't know.
gonna
I think so. Sorry.
no no
The mother's name seems to be does seem to be a portal of some kind,
Yeah.
Zanira, right?
mm,
To the womb, and to metaphorically to the what the womb is a metaphor for, which is
mm.
uh, that Allah's womb, His Rahmaniyat containing us.
I feel like in the simplest sense, it's like if someone knows your mom's name, like they know something about you, right? Like they have to be at
Critical
a certain
about you,
level of,
that's not
they
out
have to
and
be close
about
to you.
about you.
Yeah, they have to know something. They have to have some kind of level of access to you, right? So I think that's kind of maybe the other aspect. I don't know much
No,
about
but
that.
it's not like the implication of that. But even I guess the same could go for the father. Like I don't know any of you guys' fathers or mothers' names, right? So it's
No, by
like,
our last names,
but
you do know our father's names.
Yeah, there
I
you
We
go.
don't, not
flaunt it. That's
necessarily,
the way
because
But
we
also
sometimes,
are.
the mother's relationship is much more, you know,
Int-
eh,
Intimate.
yeah, than
yeah,
and I think
genetically
that's
it's more intimate.
that's a point of that's a point a lot of fathers, I think, my own father, calling him out here live, but fails to understand is that children develop a relationship with their mother for 9 months, way before the father is even in the picture, right? They have to, and this is affirmed in the Quran too, because like you know uh, I think walid is used for both parents in the Quran, but only is used for for mothers. Ab is not used in the Quran, implying that like a father has to really earn his right for that title. He's not just given to it. Whereas a woman or a mother earns it automatically by going through the pains of labor. Yeah,
And
but
even when the ab is called with lots of love, like Yusuf alayhi salam calls him
abati.
abati, it's feminine and diminutive, right? Abat, the th is like feminine, abi,
Yeah, I
abati.
it reminds me. I've heard this a couple of times now, but I just heard it again recently, and you might find this interesting, Zanira, or anyone. But like, well, the right? The plural we say the common one is ummahat, right? But
Hmm.
where did the ha come from, right? So, it's apparently what I understood was that it's like a tafkhim, or like extra sound generally means extra meaning, right? So that's kind of so you can say ummat too.
Hmm.
That's also a common, well,
Hmm.
not as much common plural, but the ha adds like emphasis to it, and like respect and honorific. Ummaha, like you can like ummaha can be a singular,
Ummah.
or ummah, right? Yeah, ummah
Hmm.
Ummahu. Ummahu.
or ummah.
Abatahu.
Yeah,
Abatahu.
and ummah I think also is common in classical
Yeah.
Arabic.
Actually, in Qatar, they like people, colloquial. The mother they call Yumma.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Not Ummi. Yeah, Yumma.
Yumma.
Mm.
Interesting.
And
In
in
either in our tribe we say Yumma and Yuba,
Yuba.
sweet.
and
And
Wow.
in
also in
B
like
is very close to the M. Bakka, Mecca. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
in much of South Asia, it's derived from ummi, but we call a mother ammi, not ummi, but
Yeah. Yeah.
ammi and
Right. Right.
abu or abba.
yeah.
And
I,
in
Abu
during
and Abba is like it's literally Arabic.
it's literally Arabic.
Yeah.
And in times of like Islamophobic riots against Muslims, um, they figure out who's a Muslim child when they call out their mother or their father. So the
there's
parents are teaching their kids to call them mummy and daddy, or mummy and papa, instead
Yeah.
of ammi and abu, so that they're not lynched for being recognized as Muslims.
Yeah, subhanallah.
there's also like different readings to like immahat and immat. Im.
Mm.
I think.
Im.
Yeah. Im is another Arabic variation, dialectical variation. So
But what do you think, guys? Like the connection with Emma,
Emma,
Im.
Emma, which no
Like the
Emma,
feminine of Abd,
Amatullah.
right? Yeah.
like yes, Emma as in Arabic, it's like the female slave.
Yeah.
Oh, how do you write that, Amar?
I'm actually
Amatun, it's
same
Alif,
root.
Mim,
Mm.
Ta, مربوطة. Amatun, yeah, Emma.
I wonder if that's the
That's very
same.
sad if it's the same root as the mother and the female slave. But to be honest, a mother is a slave of the baby for quite a while.
That's really funny. Sorry. But also, like, Amma is not supposed to be, or even Abd, it's supposed to be an honor. Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the real,
That
Amatun
it's
too.
and
not,
Abd, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And Zainab
Sultanat.
Ghazali has this, I think, saying in her book, she says, Al Ummu hiya al Ummah.
Yeah, the nation,
Mm.
the
The mother
Ummah.
is the
Yeah.
nation.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, like the mother is.
Right. And so, even here, like the Imam,
Mm.
the first, or like the first Imam is someone who stands at the front,
Front.
right?
Mhm.
And it's like, it's the
Yeah.
same root as I guess,
Oh,
because it's the double meme.
the
So it's like the
front.
mother
And
is like the first, like kind of the source.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I hadn't thought of that. Beautiful.
Yeah. Also illiterate. We use ummi
Mm.
as the unlettered one.
But it's like as is unlettered, as innocent as the moment one comes out of one's mother.
Right. Yeah.
And unlettered is also a compliment to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he's, yeah, a Nabi
Recipient of the
Ummi.
Quran. He's the recipient
Yeah,
of the
and
Quran.
he's not taught. So it's like almost like there is an innocence, obviously, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also like an honor that he's not taught by any human being. He's taught
Mm-hmm.
directly by God.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Emma is not listed here. Maybe it's a different.
because it's without the shidda.
Yeah. It's probably somewhere
Mm.
here. Or there's also M here too. So I was gonna take this opportunity to say I know we've toyed with the idea of an intermission. I don't think I could do an intermission. I think if we break, it would end. But I guess I'm finding maybe I don't know if anybody else is feeling the same, because we're kind of rapidly going through many dimensions. It's a little bit heavier than when we stick with one and kind of flourish. So we have about 8 more names before we get Musawwar is a nice place to stop too, because it's the last name. All of these, I think there's 11 names now that's mentioned, all in a row in Surah Al-Hashr, I believe. So it would be a good point to stop if anybody wants to take a break and continue next week. But how are
Sure.
you guys? How are you guys feeling? Should we keep going? There's 8 more, and who knows where it'll take us. But I don't think I have more than an hour, so I think if we're gonna stop, it's not a bad place to stop. What do you guys think?
Let's stop now.
No,
I think
Yeah, I do have to
it's a
pray as well.
perfect, yeah.
Yeah, no, I really feel like just because we're jumping from name to name to name, like it's definitely heavier. It's definitely like uh lots of very vast context switching. So that's definitely going to take more of a toll. Um, Khair, inshallah. Always a pleasure. And yeah, we'll continue. I think I'll have the survey ready next time, so that will be fun. Maybe we'll get some of the lurkers in the group chat to show to participate a bit. And yeah, I'll keep and maybe Quran roots will be ready by next week too. That would be exciting. There's only like 300 or so more words that need to be mapped to a root, and then I got to figure out like particles and stuff like that. But yeah, it should allow for very powerful search. Um, and yeah, inshallah, it'll open up to be like kind of like Wikipedia, right? Where you can kind of like, if you're reading the Quran and you're like, oh, this is a cool metaphor, you can tag it like, okay, this is a metaphor. Now we have, now we can start building, a very, very fine-grained uh, information system and search system of the Quran and the names and Arabic and yeah.
Yeah, mashallah. Allahumma barik in the process. May Allah uh,
Ameen, ameen, ameen.
reward all of you, inshallah. I
Yeah,
had a question for you guys. Because I when I joined, I'm only joined to the group Lisan Lab, and I see there's amazing groups in the Mashraba community. Do you guys have? And I know you mentioned a few times the fusuls, and do you
yeah.
guys have
Feel
any
free.
recommendation of what
Oh my God.
I
There's a
can
wealth
You
of
join?
are. Oh,
yeah. I mean,
you're missing
yeah,
out then. It's
yeah. I
taken
mean,
over
it
my
was.
life.
Yeah, it's hard to know where to start. But yeah, like I kind of just got pulled into the group by the one of the founders, and there's a few different branches, and yeah, feel free to just join the groups. You can probably find a lot of information just by looking at the group description.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to stop you right there. There's a process, and you're
Yeah,
gonna get.
yeah,
Yeah, you need to fill
yeah.
out a form. There's a form. You should
Right,
send him the
right. Yes,
form.
yeah. I don't know. I
Because
feel like because I added
some
some
people are very
people.
disciplined and they don't
Yeah,
appreciate adding people to groups without following the process. Not me.
I,
I'm just saying.
yeah. No, I
And
totally,
that's why exactly why I'm asking because
yeah.
I think it's like I can see how everything is organized and it's amazing. I just wanted to see what you guys think. If you have any recommendation and if you can tell me about the process, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I'll post a link in the group. If anyone has it handy now, in case I forget, you can just post it in the group. Because I think I added several people. Just because like, I think the main process, the main reason why there's a forum and is because we don't want random people just showing up. But because I know Amar personally and some other people personally, I felt like, there's a level of vetting, and Joshua never didn't say anything. So, but yeah, I'll share.
Appreciate it, Omar.
Yeah, no,
Appreciate it.
I'll share the forum, and yeah, so there's a wealth of talks and information on YouTube from different people that were leading discussions and things in this community. So yeah, I'll share the link, inshallah. Um, yeah, and I'll need to add it to this page too as well. Yeah, please, if you are interested in any of these people, or at least please keep them in your dua. These are people that, you know, uh, like I said, we probably would not have met. None of this would be what it is without a lot of these people. Yeah, so yeah, it's a long overdue acknowledgement section, but may Allah increase their reward, inshallah, and their benefit to the community.
Allahumma ameen.
I mean,
Allahumma ameen. Ameen.
also this book. I don't know if you saw Ammar, whoever posted it, but I think this is a beautiful book, and I've been in contact with the lawyer, and she's a wonderful person. Sorry, the
Lawyer,
author,
the author.
yeah, the author and the illustrator, and it's just such a cool book. I can't wait to get my hands on it. Um, I think it's in this very much in the spirit of what we're doing, or what I'm trying to do with Mindroots, of like making these ideas more easily accessible, right? And like art, and there's a lot of cool style stuff in here. I think if you Google it, you might get it. I've never even seen this sample before, actually. But there are a lot of really cool illustrations. Well,
Yeah, I just
not sharing.
screenshot it. The
Yeah, I'm not
screen.
sharing the screen, but yeah, if you go to the page, if you just follow the links on the page, you can at least see this preview, which I just noticed for the first time. This is a pretty generous preview. Looks like over 50, 40 pages, so very cool. But yeah, inshallah, I'll have my hands on the book and maybe some future series on the book, inshallah, or something like that.
This is an amazing concept.
Yeah, it's so cool, alhamdulillah. It made me very excited. Okay, inshallah, and we'll resume next time again then with Al-Ghaffar, and there'll be 8 names, and then we can get into inshallah Al-Khafid and Al-Rafi', which some people also consider one name, but
Mm.
khair,
All
inshallah.
right, Assalamualaikum.
Jazakumullah khair,
Wa
everyone.
alaikum
Alaikum,
assalam.
jazakallah khair.
Salam.
Have a
Alaikum salam.
beautiful weekend.
Thank you. You as well,
You
everybody.
too. Jazakumullah
You-
khair.
Thank you,
Wa
brother.
inshallah.
Bye.
Salam.